for Don Heller,
Except for
except for the Community Development
item 3.
Partnership, number 3, and Mr. Fox will be seated for Mr. Brooks on that item.
Mr. Chair, could I add a quick comment on item number 3?
Well, yes, if you would like to comment on it, because Mr. Heller is going to participate on number 3 via teleconference in some way. So if you
Right.
want to explain it.
Right, item number 3 is the text amendment to section 6-110, which is submitted by the Community Development Partnership. And Don Heller will be contacted via telephone for that item so that he can be seated as a regular item. And this will be the only item that he will be seated on this evening. It should be noted that Mr. Heller was present and seated at both of the previous meetings that were held on this item. Those occurred on April 7th and April 21st, and that is why he would like to continue being seated on this proposal to see it through. Now, the commission will hear the presentation and may decide to close this item this evening. If they do close it, they may decide to take a vote, but they don't have to this evening. However, if they do decide to take a vote, they will do so directly after the item. And I mention this because that is not our usual protocol. We usually take action and votes on the public hearing items all at the end of the meeting. However, given this unusual circumstance with Mr. Heller being contacted and seated via telephone, we will be doing it this way on this item only to accommodate this unusual circumstance. Thank you.
In addition, item number 2 from this evening's agenda has been postponed. Item number 4 has been withdrawn. Item number 5 has been postponed. Item number 6 has been postponed. Item number 7 has been postponed. So we are going for a record tonight.
So you said 5 is postponed too?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes,
Well, we
5 is
just found
postponed.
out.
So
Well,
we'll
we
be
can
hearing
all go
3
now.
items tonight, 1, 3, and 8. Yep, we're hoping.
Well, definitely before 1.
Greenwich Post can cover this.
And number 1 is the Innis Arden Golf Club. Who speaks for them? Oh,
My name's Vincent O'Brien.
Can you speak into the microphone or raise it or turn it on or? We don't want to miss a single word. No. Is it working?
It is, it was tested.
No, I don't think so.
I think it's working.
Is it? Okay. I'll blow my ears out.
Vincent O'Brien from Innis Arden Golf Club.
It's not.
Okay,
there we go.
Ah, now.
here we go. My name's Vincent O'Brien. I'm from Innis Arden Golf Club. I understand you might have a couple of questions or concerns with regard to the tent.
Well, specifically, how high is it?
It's 8 feet high,
8? Oh.
yes.
Okay. And it is for members only, is that correct?
That is correct, only
And the
members' children.
dimensions are 16 by 40?
That is correct.
Okay.
And you're seeking, I'm sorry, seeking 11 weeks? I believe that's
Yeah,
what's,
we've done the count.
11 weeks.
Well, you better check it before we.
I think,
Yeah, if anything less than that,
Less, yeah.
Okay,
yes.
well, then we'll do it for 11, because our staff report says 11, so.
Okay.
the email,
Let's give the dates.
are you Mr. Palmer? No.
No,
The email from Mr. Palmer says the duration is June 22 to July 30.
Oh. But the public notice said July,
Oh.
June 1st.
This-
Right,
The
well,
application is,
somebody say how many weeks.
It doesn't matter.
It's, I'm looking at this.
It appeared to be 10, if you go June 1st to August 14th, I think.
22 now, though.
Perhaps staff just rounded it up and gave them an extra week, I don't know, is
No,
that?
then it'll be.
It was probably the application
doesn't
stated
matter.
one thing, and then the email said
Yeah.
yep,
another, just that the email says June 22nd to July 30th.
exactly. We'll
Gives you
have
some
it
time
down.
to set it up, take it down a little bit later.
Correct, probably a week to set it up, and then we'll have it down at the end of camp.
did this need to go to ZBA for
variance.
No.
Special exception?
Special
Well,
exception.
the club has a special exception use, and this is a
Yep.
customary function of a
So
club,
it
so it
doesn't
would
need
fall within the existing special exception. And
I think
that,
it is temporary.
right, and it's also for members only. Please confirm that, right?
That's
It's-
correct,
yeah.
yes.
Your bias.
Excuse me, how are you going to confirm that it's members only? I mean, I understand that the club has an honorable reputation, and I'm sure you do personally, but sometimes these things get a little out of hand, you know, it becomes a grandchild, then a niece, a nephew, a friend of a friend of a friend. Do you intend to police this?
Yes, we do. We actually ask the name and whose child it is at the club.
Child or grandchild, I assume?
Of a member of the
Okay,
club.
but not nieces and nephews and
No.
cousins? Okay.
No.
Any other comments? Any other comments? Anybody in the public wish to speak? Then I'll entertain a motion.
I'd like to make a motion for approval of this proposed tent, 8 feet high, 16 by 40 in dimension, for a period of 11 weeks, use by the family, I guess, of members only, I guess immediate family of members only, and that's it,
The dates,
11 weeks.
I would like to see dates.
Oh, okay. Well, it's supposed to begin on June 22nd, but,
But that's not the erection of the tent may take place prior to that, so I think,
so why don't we
That's
just
the
do
request.
June 1 to August 15th for you, and then you'll be
Perfect.
all set, or June
Yes.
3rd to August 15th.
That'd be
But
great.
the key thing being it's for a 10-week period during the summer months, because it's just for this
Well, it's
year.
just for
just
1
this
year.
only.
That is correct, yes.
Exactly.
I second.
all in favor? Aye. Opposed? None?
Okay, that's the third.
It's yours.
The third of it.
Thank you.
Okay, and then
Thank you.
I'd like to move approval of the May 19th minutes.
I second.
All in favor?
Good move, Margaret.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Up to 4 minutes.
Got that done?
Got that done, okay.
We need to wait 4 minutes before we can open the public hearing, so I can't say smoke them if you got
Perhaps I
them.
could explain why I'm not voting on it.
Could we have zoning jeopardy?
Yeah, I would not be voting on item 3 because I missed one of the prior sessions, and by policy, the alternate, in this case, Mr. Fox, who voted for me in the previous meeting, will carry forward the vote.
Sorry
It's
to-
not the same as a recusal, which means that I can still participate in the discussion, but not vote.
But this is,
I hate to do this to you, Mr. Brooks, but if you could repeat that when we get to the public
Pardon me?
hearing. If you wouldn't mind repeating that when we get to the public hearing, I apologize to ask you to do.
How lucky for the audience.
see how well you remember what you said.
Oh, yeah, that's what I said. He said, Commissioner Levy calls it a well-addressed rehearsal.
Give it to the right, I don't want it down here.
Is that clock? I have 7:10.
We go by the town clock always.
Go by that clock.
Yeah, we go fight town clock.
Go by that one.
That one.
Yeah, but every room in this town,
I know,
town
they're
hall
all
has a
different. I understand that.
Let's
But
say
this
we're-
is our clock.
We are flexible, if nothing else. It'd be embarrassing to have the whole meeting over by 7:30, isn't it?
No, she hasn't shown up yet, but
It's the third over, one out of the.
Mr. Chair, since we have a minute, I would just like to state publicly that I'm so grateful to Bob Seal and also to Patrick LaRoe for covering matters while I was away on maternity leave. They did a fabulous job, so I'd just like to put that out there on the record.
parties in your absence? I think that should be congratulated for those.
Well, I don't think there was much time for anything.
let me turn on my microphone. Don, could you just say hello to me or something?
Hello, Dick.
Hello. Have you got him? It's good. Your voice is coming through so the court reporter can get it.
Good, thank you.
Thank you. It's now 7:15. We will be hearing number 3, the Community Development Partnership Planning Committee.
Excuse
now-
me,
Sorry.
if I may, just for the record, I'm just going to quickly repeat what I had stated before for the record, which is that Donald Heller is joining us as a regular seated member on this item. He was present for the April 7th and the April 21st meeting, and he will be continuing as a seated member, obviously via the telephone. He will hear the presentation, and at the end, if the commission decides to close this item, Mr. Heller would verify at that time that he's heard everything that was presented this evening, and then the item could be closed. And if there is a vote, that doesn't have to be tonight, but if there is a vote, we will be doing it right after the presentation, after the item is closed, as opposed to at the end, which is our normal course. Thank you.
And about the vote,
Well, just for the record, Fred Brooks missed the meeting, so in his place, Mr. Fox is seated. However, Mr. Brooks is not recused, so he will be participating in the discussions.
All the procedures set now.
We think we've covered everything.
Good evening, Mr. Maitland and members of the commission, and Mr. Heller by conference phone. For the record, I am Mary Ellen Levine. I chair the Community Development Partnership Planning Committee. As noted in previous hearings, the CDP Planning Committee was appointed by First Selectman Peter Tessie in 2012, following the recommendation of the Housing Task Force. The Housing Task Force was appointed by Mr. Tessie in 2009 in response to one of the 5 moderate income action items you commissioners included in your 2009 Plan of Conservation and Development, the POCD. I also state for the record that the 2009 POCD was approved by the Planning and Zoning Commission that year and given to the representative town meeting, the RTM, which approved it in June of 2009. We are before you the 3rd time with proposed regulations to replace Section 6110. With one exception, the proposals before you are identical to the proposals you considered at the April 21, 2015 public hearing. The exception is that sections C1 and C2 have been replaced following comments made by some of you and by some of the people who came to the public hearing. Section C, which is on page 38 of the application, has been replaced by what we call an either-or proposed regulation. Proposed C1 states that a developer is not required to build moderate income dwelling units in the LB, LBR2, CGB, CBGR, and GBO zones. He may build them, provided they comply with existing zoning regulations. He is not required to build them. There is no mandate. Alternatively, a developer may request one or more of the incentives offered in proposed section 6110G, page 39 of the application. If a developer requests one or more of the incentives offered, 20% of all dwelling units on one existing lot or merged adjoining lots shall be deed restricted as moderate income dwelling units. The proposed regulations speak for themselves. They provide flexibility for a developer who now has a choice. You can apply under existing regulations, or you can apply with the incentives under the new regulations. We believe this has the possibility of increasing the stock of moderate income housing in Greenwich, thereby benefiting the town workforce and others. The ultimate beneficiary, we believe, is the town. sit down.
Oh, if you're completed with your presentation. Well, just a second. Are there any questions from the commission?
This is a question which is more in the nature of a dialogue. I read the transcripts regarding 6205, and I guess my question would be, if the hypothetical is that somebody files an application under 205 as a historic structure, as we recently had with a restaurant, and they want to build residential units, will they be under 110? Is that your understanding?
Yes, they would, but they would not have to comply with the moderate income housing regulations. That's the language which is in the amended C1
Yep.
or CA1.
Page 30.
Says, dwelling units are permitted within the private sector, residential or mixed-use developments in the particular zones, provided they comply with section 6110D and 6205. 6205 has as one of the parts of it, in a triple asterisk,
Yep.
special rules for the CGB zone in relationship to historic buildings, and that would comply under the, as I read it, it would comply under the 6205.
If I may add to that, there's a caveat, though, that the applicant cannot pick and choose from the regulation. Either they're coming in under 6205 or they're coming in under 6110.
Right.
You can't pick and choose.
That makes much more sense to me. Yeah, it can't be both.
Right.
Okay. Perfect.
Any other questions of staff, or any other questions of the commissioners?
No.
Don, did you say no?
Yes, I said no.
Thank you. Any questions from the audience? Mr. Pugliese?
Good evening, members of the commission. My name is Paul Pugliese. Thank you for allowing me to speak again on this application. I sent, and I hope everyone received a model of how this proposal might work on a LBR zoned lot in town. I hope everyone got a chance to take a look at that. I have a couple of general comments. One is to ask whether...
Sorry, may I interrupt just for a second? I'm not sure that the commission did receive that, actually.
I know.
Do you happen to have copies with you now? We'll run up and make copies now.
Oh, okay. Well, it's...
Miscommunication with staff on that, I apologize.
Okay. It might be good to take a look at it before you vote on it. Anyway, one question I had was whether the law department has looked at the occupancy restrictions and made a decision as to whether or not they might violate the Fair Housing Act. I think restricting these moderate units to by employment or residency may violate the Fair Housing Act. So that's just a housekeeping thing to take a look at. In general, the regulation still contains an awful lot of discretionary language, which I've mentioned before, adds a lot of risk from the point of view of a developer to the extent that they don't understand exactly what you're looking for. Hopefully, the pre-application meeting would resolve some of those issues, but I think things like on page 4 of the agenda, it's F. I couldn't really follow the numbers that clearly, but the distance requirements, I think that it shouldn't say that the commission may require larger distances. I think if you are going to require a larger distance, the distance should never be more than the underlying zoning would require in terms of distance.
The only place I can see a problem with that is in a couple of them where in the LBR2, I think. Anyway, they're the ones where the side yard for a low building would not meet the building codes. In other words, the 5-foot requirement of the fire marshal for access to the side of a building. So the 6205 might have a side yard which has come up 4'6" or something, would then be our requirement. I think the zoning commission could then impose a 5-foot yard on as opposed to the 4'6".
Which would be imposed by the building code regardless.
Well, it
at
would
that
be
point.
certainly under but it would, since they flow through us first, in that case, we would act on it in that case. But that's the kind of discretion I think that is envisioned there. As you are correct, though. It does give some latitude on that.
As long
I
as
think I think that's within the existing regulations, though. Even that language is within 610G today, that the commission can vary yards. That's it. It's a very broad discretion.
One of the things that my example turned out was the fact that, and I've mentioned this before, is that the regulation still says that any underground parking will still be restricted to employees of the business use on the first floor in these types of projects. And I think that still needs to be changed because of the expense of building underground parking, if you are going to build it, is so extraordinary that if you limit it and restrict it to employees as opposed to employees in residence, you have another provision that says that the parking for the businesses should be on grade. That makes sense.
Use group 1 is the only group affected. If it was an office use in the office, excuse me, that's use group 2, that parking could also be in the underground garage. Obviously, the parking for any housing could be in the underground garage. So it was to give flexibility for use group 1.
Well, the way I read it, it seemed to restrict it
It's pretty clear in
specifically
here. It
to
says use group 1.
employees.
And I think, Mr. Pugliese, that it doesn't say long-term parking by employees only. It says that, I think the effect of this is they must park there. So, for example, in the Riverside Commons, we mandated recently that the bottom floor of the additional building was going to be where employees would have to park. And I think that is very much the intent of this. And I don't think it precludes others parking there, but it means the low spot goes to the employees, which makes sense.
Okay,
And again, it's a
I
may.
think it's maybe a half full, half empty thing.
Doesn't say only.
It's okay, as long as that's the intent. It just wasn't clear to me. It seemed to be much more restrictive than that. And then the other thing that my example showed is that it's very difficult to take advantage of the incentives in a 2.5-story building in the LBR2 zone. Between the parking and the .9 FAR, it makes it so that you have to cantilever over the parking with the second floor. The first floor gets shrunken down, and you really can't take advantage of the incentives. So if the whole idea is to provide the incentives, it should be reasonable to expect to take advantage of them.
As you know, it's very difficult in the town of Greenwich where there are so many different sized parcels that to try to come up with something where one size fits all, it's impossible. So many of these incentives, as you know, are judgmental, and they will come out in some sort of back and forth, discretionary, thank you, back and forth dialogue between an applicant and planning and zoning staff in the initial meeting and so forth. So I think it's as I say, it has to be flexible in that way. And what we're trying to do is make it easier to accomplish something by the flexibility, not harder. We want to get as much moderate income housing as we can. That's our hope with this, that we will increase the amount that we've been able to generate in the past under 6110G.
Well, if that's the goal, I'm just suggesting that 2.5 stories, besides being a little bit odd to deal with architecturally, I don't think we really want to see half-story buildings with little dormers down in the LBR areas. I think the buildings are actually more attractive if they have cornices on them and flat roofs.
We'll try to get the Architectural Review Commission involved in those projects and see what they say about them.
Get them to take a look at this.
Well, that's why that's why I'm bringing this point up, is because I think 2.5 stories not only makes it difficult to take advantage of the incentive, but it makes it much more difficult to design a building that's going to look like it fits in with a lot of the other architecture that's already existing in these zones. And I think that was about it.
As per usual, thank you very much for your
Thank
good
you.
advice.
Thank you.
I think
Does
we have.
anyone
the
else
guy in
wish
the
to
back.
speak?
Yeah.
Guess not.
Okay.
No, he's just, don't invite him to speak.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission.
Would you like to raise the mic a little?
Yes, good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission and staff. It's a pleasure to be here. Pierre Gagne. I had appeared at
Your
the
name,
previous...
please?
Pierre Gagne, Gagne, for the record. I appeared at the previous meeting on 4/7/2015 and made comments at that meeting that I see in the new document, really none of which have been changed in any way. So I'm just here to really repeat some of the items that I had mentioned, and I think I left a copy with the commission at that time for distribution. Hopefully that was done. If it hasn't, I have another copy here that I certainly can make available.
You should understand that this zoning change is not initiated by the Planning and Zoning Commission. It has been initiated by the Housing Subcommittee established by the first selectman.
Yes, I do
So the
understand.
changes to it have to come from them and not from us.
No, I understand that, but
Okay.
you're holding a public hearing, so during the
No.
public hearing process, obviously, you're asking for comments from
We
the
are.
public in the community that would apply, and those comments then would, in fact, be submitted to this board, would it not?
Yes,
For comments on
during the
this?
public hearing, yes.
Correct, okay. So I'm just simply stating that that's what I did previously at the last public hearing, and I'm here to do it once more. I have, just for the record, want to say that I agree with everything that previous speakers mentioned, Paul, and many of my comments, in fact, are similar. So I don't want to be redundant and mention the same items. I just want to emphasize a few, if I may, and hopefully the commission can take a hard look at these, and the staff members as well. One of the major items, I think, from a characteristic point of view is, and I was delighted to hear you, Mr. Chairman, mention that this is really not site-specific, that this is really just a guideline to help a developer, builder, come up with a solution that would be appropriate so that the encouragement of housing, affordable housing or moderate income housing would be buildable or feasible within the town of Greenwich. A couple of items that I think do make it very difficult, or I should say three. One is the mass of the building at 2.5 stories.
Excuse me, you said
The limit,
difficult, but
the mass,
difficult for whom?
for any developer to
Developer, okay.
be encouraged or insensitized, if you will, to develop moderate income housing. There are three components on a characteristic level. One is the mass, the bulk, obviously, and the FAR, the density. So I'm encouraged and believe that it was appropriate to go to 0.9 as opposed to 0.75. So having said that, that certainly is needed to be at 20% of any type of moderate income housing level. But to then turn around and restrict the dimensional standards in a way that it's 2.5 stories and go 40 feet when you certainly can provide 3 stories and 40 feet without any difficulty at all, I think compromises the site plan. What results when one does that is it makes it a larger footprint, and it makes the first floor a smaller footprint to accommodate the parking. People are not going to be encouraged to place parking underground at $30,000 a space. That's essentially what it costs to build a parking space underground in the town of Greenwich. So you have all kinds of restrictions, number one. Number two, in some cases, Coscob, for example, the groundwater situation is high, and it's difficult to put in underground parking, and that adds cost as well. So we believe that there should be other creative incentive and flexibility within this proposal to allow the developer, with his expert team, knowing what the costs are and the objectives and the goal of this section, to be creative with elevated parking in cases where it applies, or a reduction in parking requirements, which you do address. But to make it mandatory that it go underground, I think, is too restrictive.
It's not mandatory.
Okay. It seems to read that way, but
It's not.
again, I heard that before, and just to
To
repeat.
clarify, it is not mandatory.
Okay. It suggests, though, that the parking be encouraged to go underground, subject to two-thirds being reserved for long-term parking or employees.
Incorrect again.
Okay, all right. Well, I can read it. It says here, Section 6, that the Planning and Zoning Commission may allow up to two-thirds of the required parking spaces for use Group 1.
One,
The operative
Right,
word
to
is
be
may.
located on-site underground.
may.
May, okay. All right, so you're saying that flexibility then is there, and if the applicant decides to, since you don't address elevated parking, I'll call it, does that mean it's restricted? Then you're saying, no, it's not.
This is just an incentive that is available to the applicant and to the commission to address an issue of on-site parking. Many people in the past have said that what you're doing for use group 1, which is basically the retail uses in these zones, is that by making mandatory that right now it's only 1/2 of the parking for use group 1 can go into the garage, forcing more of the site to be used for on-site parking. What this does is gives the flexibility to now allow more parking
Okay.
for use group 1 to go in the garage, freeing up the site for other uses. But it's purely at the discretion of the developer and working with the commission.
All right, well, thank you for that clarification. And then just to take that one step further, then are you also saying that the developer, the architects, and the planners are flexible in being able to find other solutions where underground parking cannot be accommodated? In other words, on-site, you can only go up or down.
Right.
You really can't go out any further than the boundaries of the property line.
That's
So I'm
correct.
asking the question, is that flexibility available to the developer under these recommendations, or are they excluded?
I don't believe these recommendations to incentivize the moderate income housing are any more, in fact, I believe they're less restrictive than if you went under 6205, which is the current zoning. I mean, there are a lot of requirements in there that you have to meet.
Sure.
So if you don't want to have any affordable housing, then these incentives and so forth are moot.
No, I understand
And
that.
above-ground parking is generally permitted. I mean, you can build a garage, there's nothing that prohibits an above-ground garage, I mean, as long as it's open and doesn't interfere with your floor area restrictions and whatnot, which as long as it's open, it wouldn't count towards the floor area. The garage, I'm talking about an above-grade garage.
Above-grade, correct.
Right.
Right.
And I just would like to just add one other point to what Mr. Maitland was stating before, that the requirements for parking for residential are substantially less than they are for commercial. So as it relates to how that parking is on site, the higher demand parking, which is under use group 1, is the one that there's more relief is being provided for under this proposal.
Okay, therefore not restricting Group 3.
Right.
Correct.
Can I just throw in one thing too, is that the previous regulations were even more restrictive in that they only allowed 1/3 of the parking spaces for use group 1 to go underground. So again, this was already in the regulations of 6110. They just modified it to actually be less restrictive.
Okay, so then I guess, when a developer reads it with just clear language this way, and it says underground parking, and it doesn't then mention any other creative solution, is there another section in the ordinance that allows one to do that? Or will this unfold at the pre-application meetings?
I think,
Because most
as
developers.
with any new regulation, there's going to be a learning curve involved with it. And I think as the more people learn about it, I think you'll understand it. I'm sure you've reviewed it very carefully too, but I think that a lot of people have looked at it before it was even brought to this commission. A lot of input was received from the town, from people within the town, from developers within the town, from the land use attorneys within the town who work on, with developers. So I think there's been a lot of input into these decisions and into the regulations. And I think they've further modified them based on comments from the commission and based on comments from the public.
Mhm.
Sometimes all of your ideas don't get accepted and so forth, but I think that they've been heard, they've been reviewed, and they've been analyzed by the committee.
Sir, may I ask you, if you don't mind telling us, what do you do professionally? Are you a developer or a?
Yes, I'm a developer and a licensed real estate broker in Greenwich.
In Greenwich, okay.
Yes.
And did you have an opportunity?
With engineering
to-
and planning background, by the way.
Pardon me?
With engineering and planning background.
Oh.
Site planning and.
Want to sit up here? No, sounds good.
No.
More credentials than we have.
Maybe another day.
Did you have an opportunity to present these thoughts and ideas to the committee, to the applicant?
Actually, I did not have an opportunity to present these comments to the.
Because you didn't ask them, or didn't contact them, or they refused to let you, or?
I actually was not aware of the meeting. I was out of town, or I was not able to attend that meeting.
Okay.
And therefore, I did not attend any of those, but I did attend the meeting on 4/7/2015 here
Thank you.
with these comments, and I submitted these comments as well. One other area that I'd like to touch on briefly is the restriction of the LBR2 that limits the use of residential or use group 3 on ground floors.
That's not before us now.
Is that correct?
Well, I believe the use group in the LBR, and as in the CGBR zones, the first floor has always been for public retail use and has not been, historically has not been used for, recently, I mean, I know in the past it did, but office space and so forth has been pushed up off of the first floor. Recently, we took banks off of the first floor so that, again, it could be more of a pedestrian-oriented.
I think he's actually asking.
No, I think he's asking to have offices on the first floor, and
Yeah,
that's what I'm
actually, no,
saying.
that's
It's
not what
not
I'm-
permitted.
Let
It's not
me-
permitted today.
Right, let me be a little more clear. The LBR2 zone
Right.
has commercial use on ground floor, correct?
Yes.
Yes. So in those cases where you want to encourage residential uses that include moderate income, seems to me that there are many, many sites specifically in not only Coscob, but Old Greenwich and Riverside in particular, that are in what we call the fringe areas of the zone. And the fringe areas of the zone is the juxtapositioned knoll of two conflicting perhaps or adjacent type zones, so commercial and residential. In those cases, it seems to me that it would make sense for this board to consider those areas, which do exist, frankly, in many parts of Greenwich, that a allowance be made where if the commercial use is not viable today, it may have been at one time, but it's not today. And it makes more sense for the developer to make that ground floor use residential as well. I'm speaking about the fringe areas now, where it makes good character sense to do that. This language here, for some reason, seems to say special requirements under 1, that you are limited in that area to only maintain the commercial use. And as it was previously mentioned, in that situation, parking for commercial use is generally larger, much more in number of spaces that are required than for residential, for example. What you're doing is, and we did just a simple little plan to take a look at that, you're expanding the parking, or you're forcing the parking to go underground or otherwise, and you're increasing the land coverage of the site in order to maintain that commercial use, which if you're going to 0.9, you're going to make the second floor in that half story, if you stay there, which I think it should be 3, and lever over the first level. It has to.
Again,
then
sir, these are
now
all
you're
hypothetical
causing-
things, but they are, since there's so many different sites in town, to try to make it a sweeping statement, I think is very difficult.
Okay, all I'm asking then, to make it simple, is that the staff and the commission consider not limiting, because you specifically rule out LBR2,
As it is
at
today.
commercial as it is today, that
it
that
is.
remain commercial. That there should be thought and consideration given to the fact that in the fringe areas, it may make more sense from a planning point of view and a marketing point of view and a planning point of view to allow residential on the ground floor, because you do in the other zones.
You're
So
talking
why are
about-
you taking it out here?
I'm sorry,
That's
sir.
the question.
Because you're talking about something that's not before us right now, because that's the way LBR2 is defined now. I think the answer beyond staff looking at it is, quite honestly, if you had a specific site in mind, to come forward with it and come forward with a change of use for that specific site. Because if it's on a fringe area and it's next to a residential, you can convert from an LBR2 to a residential use, and that would solve your issue. If you don't, that would be the way to do it, but this is the way the LBR2, what you're raising isn't a question of this proposal, but rather the very definition of LBR2 in the zoning regulations.
That's a good
And that-
comment.
And so it's not the matter that's before us right
Yes.
now, because what we're doing right now is consistent with the definition of an LBR2.
Yes.
But if you have a site in mind, and it's a fringe area, come in with the application, because I think that's what you're saying, and propose a change of use and convert it. We've
Yeah.
done that.
All
We've
right.
gone both ways.
Okay.
What we don't want is commercial, commercial, residential, commercial, commercial.
Well said. That's why I was very specific in my language to say fringe areas.
Right, and the
And those
POCD,
are places where they're between residential and commercial. And sometimes don't function well in either way.
yeah,
But
Right,
but
but-
when you come in with a new application, you want
we're
that
open
flexibility.
to that, but it's a matter for a different meeting.
Okay. Just a response to one comment you made. You said that you would come in and then rezone that site to residential if that's
You would
what
apply
one
for
would
that,
want to
yes.
do. Is that really what one wants to do then? Because then the incentive of 610, does it apply?
Too many
Still at
hypotheticals.
point nine.
Again, too many hypotheticals.
Okay, so, again, well,
Sorry, I took the
guess
words
what
out of
I'm-
your mouth.
Okay, the points that I'm trying to make here tonight is that any developer looking at this that's going to be spending a lot of money and analyzing whether he should go one way or the other, and you want him to be encouraged to come in, these are questions that will, unfold. And there is language here that helps, and that is the informal meetings of the prior application meetings that you disclose and explain nicely. And hopefully that will be where. Unfortunately, what happens in these meetings, because I've been in many of them, is the staff members aren't quite sure how the commission's going to behave on a specific application, and it gives insecurity to any developer to even proceed at that point, because now he's hearing one thing that maybe yes, perhaps, maybe not, and then he comes in and he finds out maybe yes, perhaps, maybe not, is the way in fact it is, and a year and a half later, he's found he's no further along than he would have been had he just simply filed an application under the current zoning conditions without.
Sir, I'd like to thank you for your attention and your involvement. I think it's unfortunate that you missed the opportunities, I would guess, either through your absent-mindedness or volition, to meet with the applicant prior to this. So some of your ideas, perhaps, if appropriate, could have been included in the proposal. We are limited as to what's before us. I would also suggest that your concern for the town is admirable, and there are other opportunities to express that, perhaps with more attentiveness than we can give you when this matter is the matter before us. So thank you very much.
Okay, again, thank you for your time, and hopefully this was useful, and I look forward to seeing the results of your decision. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, if I could just interject for a moment. Mr. Heller, we did send you the documentation that was submitted by Mr. Pugliese. We sent it to you via email. If you could perhaps just check your email and make sure you got that, since it was submitted for the record. And I'd also ask at this time whether the commission would like Mr. Pugliese to go through that documentation since you've just received it. Again, that was an error on our part, so we apologize for that.
I think it's up to Paul if he wishes to go through it with us.
Good evening again, Paul Pugliese for the record. Sorry about the small size of the floor plans, but the intent here was to take an existing piece of property that is in Coscob, that is currently on the market, and try to apply this particular change in zoning to that property to see how it would physically and economically work on the property. And I know that the commission in the past has tried to stay out of the economics of the situation, but the whole incentive really revolves around economics. And if the economics don't work, then the goal will not be achievable. So what I did, this is the property known as 235-241 East Putnam Avenue. It's where Chicken Joe's is on the corner. Then there's a small retail building that collided with a house many years ago, and then a separate nail salon that's in a little wooden building toward the back of the site. So what I did was I tried to basically take advantage of the full .9 FAR, provide the 20% moderate income housing, provide the required parking for the business and the residential without going below grade because the property's in a flood zone, and it wouldn't be your first choice to put below grade parking there. And then I tried to these are gross numbers, and although it took a lot of time, I didn't have a lot more time to add to this. So basically, it has about 3,900 square feet. Unfortunately, I apologize for the small size of these drawings. They were really meant to be on 11 by 17. But it has about 3,900 square feet of retail, part of the first floor being taken up with circulation, apartment lobby, and the required egress from the upper floors. And then I have 12 apartments, typical floor is 6 apartments, 2 2-bedrooms, and 4 1-bedrooms. And you can see that I cantilevered over the back of with the second floor so that there'd be a walkway between the parking and the building. This site happened to work out pretty perfectly, if you look at the site plan, to actually have double-loaded parking. I put 26 spaces in the back, and I actually, rather than parking right on Route 1, the way the parking is now, I actually bumped out the ends on the property and put 4 parallel spaces recessed behind the property line in order to make it a little safer than it is today in getting out of your car. You can see that the other thing that happens to be a trend and an amenity today is the rooftop decks in terms of providing recreation space for the residents. So so half of the roof is a roof deck, the other half is mechanicals with a screen wall, which I'm sure you've seen on quite a few applications on Greenwich Avenue and even down on Steamboat Road. The difficulty was that making this 2.5 stories would take out most of the incentive in terms of the number of units and taking advantage of the square footage. So it became very difficult without having at least 3 stories, although the 3 stories that I do show here, with the exception of the elevator overruns and the bulkheads for the egress stairs, it does comply with the maximum of 40 feet. I think the top of the parapet's at 39 feet. Now, getting to the numbers, which we don't usually do here, just to give you an idea, because the whole idea is to make this work and to actually create more diversity in housing in town. So this property is currently on the market for $3,200,000, which is right around market value, although we don't have anyone who's stepped up to buy it yet. So I threw in a price of $3 million, just as an example, with demolition, removal, architectural, all of those costs that are listed there, and you can take exception, if you like, with some of my estimates, but I think they're based on some semblance of reality. And then I projected gross income based on my personal experience in the rental market and knowing what housing is going for, particularly in the LBR areas, and also what the rentable rates are on this particular site, because we've had it listed for rent as well. And basically, the bottom line is that based on the values that the appraisers use, the net loss would be somewhere around $2 million on a total value of a $7 million project. So I'm just not sure if the incentives are enough. I'm sure that the 2.5 stories is not going to work, particularly in the FAR, in the LBR zone. And my feeling is that the only way to increase the housing is going to be more density. And that leads me to believe that you will get more 830G applications than you will moderate income housing applications, because the density is not capped, nor is the FAR.
Do you think that's true just in the LBR2 zone or generally?
Having the full 3 stories, I think, gives a lot more flexibility. But when you look at what's out there, if you take a look at all of the business zones, generally the parcels are small. This one happens to be a very regular shape as these parcels go, but generally the parcels are small. Some of them are quite contorted, and I just think that the numbers don't work based on what it would cost to actually develop one of these, especially since some of them have some residual value in the buildings that are on the property.
Mr. Puglisi, I have a question, a kind of follow-up question addressed to that. So this is a hypothetical which has a large incentive in terms of FAR. And if you didn't have that, wouldn't the analysis be even worse? I mean, that's what it looks like to me. You'd have less square footage, less rent.
Right, and tearing down this property to provide less under the underlying zoning would definitely not work economically.
Okay, but
my whole idea here is how can we incentivize people to actually improve some of these underutilized properties and actually encourage moderate income housing, and I'm just not sure that this regulation is there yet.
But there are, I mean, this particular place, which I go by, I'm not working anymore, I'm happy to say, but for 40 years I went by, has always had difficulty being rented. So you're taking a very particular property, which is in an odd location, and so for some reason has been largely vacant. A portion of it has been vacant to start with. So I don't view that as a typical property, and I do think that the incentives certainly, I mean, you just have a whole lot more building to work with. So
Well, I think that that's precisely the type of property that would be worth incentivizing for redevelopment, because that's, I mean, the COSCOB plan identified this type of development, which I also took into consideration when I was working on this model. That's particularly precisely the type of property that you want to incentivize for redevelopment, because they're not going to give up the Porsche dealership to build moderate income housing. That's a prime GB property, and that use is a high income use. What we really need to do is identify these smaller properties, because you also don't want a massive project necessarily. You want to break up housing and have more diversity in the areas where people can actually walk and go to shop at the local stores. So if it doesn't work in the LBR zone, then I'm not sure there would be any economic incentive to do it in a zone where the income produced is much higher than the LBR zone. So somehow it would make sense to make sure that this regulation works on those parcels that are the most underutilized.
We've had before us an application in the LB zone, which I personally believe that the applicant wasn't able to make it work under the current zoning. But knowing the changes that are in this regulation, I believe that it'll be interesting to see, but it is my belief that that project would become much more feasible, and we may in fact see it, but I don't know that to be the fact. The kinds of things that the old 6110G was doing was any of the incentives had to be split, between had to be 50% residential to make it work, and that seemed to be a stumbling block. And removing that could well bring, hopefully, I hope my optimism is rewarded, but
Well, we'll find out.
We'll find out. But I think we're likely, could see it, let's say that. And that would produce a nice, a sizable chunk of affordable housing, or moderate income housing.
Are you talking about the Sheep Hill Road?
Well,
LB?
it's a hypothetical for now,
Yeah.
but
Well,
anyway.
that's, in that case, you're allowing a third story, though, so it makes.
I understand that,
it
but
doesn't make a
you know,
big
that-
Not
difference.
responding to a hypothetical.
Okay.
Which
Well,
may or may
in
not
the
be.
LB zone, you're allowing a third story. I think that goes another step further toward making the incentives work.
Well,
more
I would say
logically.
that, speaking on my behalf, I think this is a step forward as proposed with a lot of thought by the committee that is the applicant. And are there refinements that we need to make over a period of time, based upon experience, based upon some of the information that you so generously provide to us from time to time? Probably yes. But I don't think we can solve all of this at this point. I think we have to decide whether we want to go forward as it was proposed, as the application had proposed it, and then perhaps refine it over a period of time as evidence comes in to make us want to modify our prior opinion. This does not necessarily get etched in granite, and we are a highly reasonable group of people here, as I know you would have said. So therefore, I think I personally like to thank you for your input, not only on this, but on so many other matters that you are kind enough to come before us and your interest in the town. But I think we really have to consider the document before us, because if not, we will get lost in the woods trying to amend it 18 different ways with other input that will come from other people, maybe not as qualified as you, but who may come before us.
I just don't want to see it end up like the 6110, where very few people take advantage of it. We're doing a sweeping reform here, and I think it should really be sweeping enough to and provide real incentives for.
But I don't want to see the perfect become the enemy of the good, which sometimes happens in these things.
One
So,
other point.
Thank you for helping us to make it perfect.
One other point I wanted to make is the paragraph, about resale and the ending of the 40-year term is really onerous, to the point of even the moderate income unit owner, whether it's the end of the term or not, there's a right of first refusal that ends up putting an agency in as a partner on a piece of property, which I think is a disincentive. And the other thing is that there's a clause in here that states that if you own, for instance, if I owned a 12-unit rental property, and it was always a rental property, and 40 years from now, it comes off the restriction, then before it comes off the restriction, those units have to be offered for sale. If they're not offered for sale to a nonprofit or whatever other designated agency, then they have to stay restricted virtually in perpetuity. So unless you condo the rental building at the end of 40 years, it becomes, those moderate income units stay moderate income in perpetuity. It's not really.
I don't think that's the intent of it. It is to oblige the owner to notify the proper authorities that they're going to sell it. And if you don't, then it stays the way it is. So I don't think it's intended to lengthen the 40 years. It has a notice provision and a 90-day buyout off, and so there's an intention not to have a profit at the end of the 40 years.
Well,
And that if there is a profit by a third-party sale, that it gets split with the town.
that's for an individual unit owner if they sell it. But if I had a rental building
Yes.
and I'm selling, and at the end of the 40 years, I'm not selling individual units, I can't sell the moderate income units, I'm selling the whole building, then those units remain moderate income units longer than the 40 years.
But right now, they remain in perpetuity. So this is eliminating the perpetuity and putting it on a 40-year schedule, which my understanding, I'll let the applicant speak
Oh,
to
you
it.
mean it's better than 6110 is now?
Yes.
Okay.
Well,
Okay.
but
What I'm saying is
Well-
it's a disincentive to have that.
We're moving, and
I
I think
appreciate what
we're
you say,
moving
Mr.
forward.
Pugliese, because it might be a distinction without a difference to what exists. Because there's a limit to when you have to act, the market may not be there. So I understand that it might be a distinction without a difference. So that is something to be considered.
And there's also, for the individual who's selling a unit, it can add up to a 180-day time period for them to be able to sell a unit by the time they go through all the different agencies, which could be an issue if they're not able to pay their mortgage.
I think just one more point I'd like to make is that it's my belief, I think, that the CVS building is a 2.5-story building, which is in the LBR2 zone. And I think that has shown to be workable. And I think that, I think for now, the character of the town starts getting changed if you start making 3-story buildings in these residential zones. And so I think that,
Well, it's a
I think it's
business.
workable. It has been workable, it's shown to be workable, and I think that's just up to the developer. He doesn't have to do this. There's no forcing of him to do this, so
Well,
it'll only happen if it makes sense. And that's the good thing about it.
But you're raising a matter that, again, is, I think for future discussion is a really important topic. You're really raising the question of adaptive reuse of what we do with sites that are not necessarily working out today as it stands, and what can one do with properties. And that's actually a really good thing to think about as we do. I mean, I wish we had talked about it with the COSCOP plan some more, but as we go into the Glenville plan and even the WB, that we start thinking about what you do with properties that have ceased to function as the highest and best use, which is really what you're saying. And that is, our objective is to achieve highest and best use. I think it's not as pertinent to 6110 as it is to generally, okay, bingo, you've got this building, it's not working. What other kinds of things could we be doing with it, and how do we amend the zoning regulations to enable that? So that's, I think, really a question for the POCD and for the neighborhood plans as we go forward, or even just forming yet another task force.
The difficulty, though, is for the property owners who
Yeah,
are
you're there
left
today.
in limbo while these formulas and these
So maybe we
plans
start working it, we
come to
we
fruition.
put it on Katie's to-do list for,
Give it
Welcome back.
she didn't have anything to do.
Give it a chance before you pronounce it DOA.
Yeah.
I think.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just one thing, Mr. Chairman. May I submit these comments to the board,
Yes,
Definitely.
for the record?
yes.
Oh, don't kill yourself on the process. Rogozinski.
Good evening, members of the commission. For the record, Ken Rogozinski from the Community Planning Development Partnership. Just one point of clarification on Mr. Puglisi's comment. I believe he's read the restrictions on a rental project incorrectly. In the event of a sale of the property at the end of its 40-year restriction period, there is no right of first refusal granted to anyone, and there is no limitation on the price that he may sell the building at.
Thank you.
So from my perspective, you get to that point.
Yeah, I
If
thought I
I'm the
had
owner of
missed
a 12-unit rental project and
Thank
I've
you.
passed my 40-year period, I can do whatever I want with it. I can
Okay.
sell it to whomever I wanted to sell it at on whatever timetable. The whole right of first refusal and the limitation on sales price is only applicable to for sale individual units, not rental projects. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for the clarification.
Is there any other comments from the commission?
No.
Don?
No, no.
But we heard you.
Any other comments from the applicant? Nope. Shall we
Davis?
close?
Yes.
Okay. We're going to close it. Do we want to act on this evening?
I would like to
Or,
act on it.
Don, what
I
is
would
your
too.
preference?
It would be helpful to me, yes, I would like to act on it.
Okay.
And could we do that now? Could we-
Yes, we will do it now if we decide to act on it tonight.
If Ginger
So I-
gives you the
I'm very
time.
much in favor of acting on it.
Okay, Nancy?
I can't.
Oh.
I'm not sitting on this.
Andy,
Yeah, we've closed.
okay.
Andy seated for Mr. Brooks.
Brooks?
Yes.
But for Don?
He's
Don
seated,
is
he's on the
here.
phone.
Oh,
That's Don, the guy in the
That's
other, the ghost.
I did the same thing a minute ago. See what happens when you don't come here? Okay.
all right.
Are you entertaining a motion?
Yes, I will entertain a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the proposed text amendments to replace the existing language for section 6.110 with the new language we have been provided. Should I go on with the changes and that therefore remove the conflict with the other areas?
We have the language in the
Yep.
proposal.
The language is
Okay.
already in.
Wait a minute, it relates to your findings of the POCD.
Yes.
Yes.
Again,
That's
that,
where you were going.
yes, I was going to go there next. I just, that we find that this proposal is consistent with the Plan of Conservation and Development in that it encourages both further residential use as well as moderate income housing
Thank you.
in Greenwich.
I would like to even add to that, that there's an exact link to the POCD. Action item 313 specifically deals with the moderate income housing standards. And
Very much.
and actually asks us to specifically review the sections for 6110G to determine if incentives and restrictions are adequate to encourage development of moderate income housing. So I think this is a direct response to that, and I think a successful one.
Fred?
I second.
No, I can't. I'm-
Don seconded.
Right.
All in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed? To the court reporter, did you get Mr. Heller's aye? Okay, we have it. So
Thank you very much.
adios.
Good night, Donald. Have fun. Say hello to Ginger.
And before we move on completely, I would like
How do
to
you cut,
thank
I
you.
think cut this off.
I think
Katie?
The button, right, Dave's
He's gone. I'd like to thank
Oh,
you
okay.
guys who have worked on this so tirelessly with so much dedication for 3 years? 5 years, well, okay.
Yeah, but we're only thanking you for 3 of
Who's
them.
counting? Thank you very much for all the hard work. It is deeply appreciated.
Thank you. The next item is our last item on the agenda, which is
19 Division Street,
1719 Division Street.
Saima Kumar. Donald seconded.
Donald
Number 8.
seconded it.
Donald's going already. This will be fun.
Good evening. Good evening.
Good evening.
Okay, so this lovely lady to my side is my sister, She'll be making an independent recording
Ma'am,
of the
could you speak a little
proceedings.
louder and let the mic close?
I thought I was loud. Yes. The name is Saima Qamar, S-A-I-M-A, last name Qamar, Q-A-M-A-R. The address of the property is 1719 Division Street. My sister here, Dr. Asma Qamar, will be making an independent recording, and I hope everyone's comfortable with that. Okay, so I shall begin. I would like to start looking at the staff report. Okay. Voila. The issues and recommendations. Let's begin with that. As usual, the mistakes on the staff report are colossal, so I will try to address them one by one as efficiently as I can. I refer to page 194 of the staff report, issues and recommendations, section. And number 1, I have checked the current drainage manual, and the only change in the manual is for 0 to 500 addition of impervious surfaces for properties that discharge directly into the Long Island Sound. Since I'm not anywhere near the water but next to the hospital, as evidenced by the submission of a wetland sheet duly submitted, this addition project is still good with the 0 to 500 addition of impervious surfaces to be mitigated by 2 rain barrels and the planting of 20 evergreen trees, which has been done already.
Did you read, since you're on this point, did you read the staff report from the exemptions, where number 1 very clearly says that the rain barrels, which were previously accepted.
Yes.
If you go to page 199 of the staff report, I believe you have it in front of you. It is what we have received.
Yes. Okay, so let's go to exactly to
Number 1.
deal with this point. Let's go to page 201, the public service, the public works, and as you can see that so page 201, the public works, he says the project's 500 impervious. 500 square feet of impervious surface still okay, then you continue down and then you see that the ones that are discharging into the Long Island Sound, and then moving on to page 202 says should do additional mitigation. So,
Yeah.
I do not agree. Do not agree. I mean, it's really right there on page 201 and 202 by the Department of Public Works.
It says project.
There is an increase in impervious surface on this property, is that correct?
Yes, 366 square feet.
366.
Yes,
Okay.
that's what it will add to, and that is well under the 500 mark.
That's correct.
Okay.
But you know what, the drainage manual refers. Yeah, no, it's on. The drainage manual refers to cumulative addition of impervious surfaces, so it depends on what's been added in the past. And that's the exemption is on the cumulative basis. We would not be able to answer that since this has been, the comments we received were from engineering, so this would have to go back to engineering.
No, it doesn't have to. What exists is grandfathered. It has always existed, and I have not added to anything. The only thing I'm proposing to add is the addition. I added some pavers to my front yard, which have been lifted, and the place has been duly inspected. The crosswalk that exists is in the town's right-of-way, and it is not on my property. So what existed when I purchased this house is what I got, and then I'm proposing to add 366 to it. All right, number 2, no existing.
Jeff, have any comments on that?
So so you're adding the 366 as part of the proposal?
Yes.
Right, and that's the new impervious area on the site as of at least 2012, right, when the
Right.
drainage main, okay. And so at this point, then you were still proposing to do the rain barrels based on the assertion that you fall under section 1,
Yes.
right, of the drainage manual? I mean,
Right.
we can certainly get this point clarified with the Department of Public Works.
Yes, I'm clear about it. If you have something else, please write to me before the next meeting, and I will make sure that we're on the same page.
Can you clarify for me just the statement you made, which is that the concrete sidewalk in front of your house is in the town's right-of-way?
Yes, it certainly is. It's in towns. It's not on my property. It's on towns right away. It's always been that way. It's always been there. It's always existed. And while we are on the subject, well, it will come up late. It's better to go in order. All right. So, number 2, no existing survey conditions meeting the requirements of Section 614 have been provided. I have submitted a survey drawn and submitted by SE Minor to scale showing all conditions. Please refer to page 232 of the staff report. The size of the addition is so small that it is possible to show existing and proposed conditions on the same survey. Yet they're clearly marked so as to distinguish between them. When the conditions in particular, which conditions in particular are you referring to that do not show up on the survey that are on the property? I would like you to be specific about it.
I'm sorry, this is on, which one are you referring to? This is on number 2?
Yes, this is number 2.
And you're saying you did provide an existing condition survey?
You are saying no existing condition survey meeting the requirements has been provided. So what requirements are not being satisfied at this point?
Oh, I
I
see.
think that what Pat was talking about was that, sorry, I'm trying to find your survey again.
Yes,
was-
it's page 232.
Thank you.
Yes.
Was that the existing block paver sidewalk in the front that's listed on, that's shown on here, has, a lot of that has been removed, so this is no longer actually the existing conditions. That's, I think, all he was referring to.
Since you made
Well,
the change.
yes.
she said a minute ago
But,
that it hadn't been.
Okay, very good. I have here
But she was okay, go ahead.
that sidewalk is, I've had them draw a particular survey of that walk. I've had SE Minor put in that walk, and I have that survey, and I've got 11 copies here, 9 by 11, and I shall give them to you now. And that will just help us along as we go, because we keep coming back to this sidewalk. Nancy, would you be so good as to take one and pass the rest down? So that will take care of that. So now we have everything, although since it's not on my property and beyond the property line and in town's right of way, I actually don't have to account for it. But let's do so anyway.
Just a second. Okay.
Okay.
It, of course, would have helped had you submitted this ahead of time.
Oh, well, it's here now, and we still have time and another meeting. The applicant, actually, I did submit it. I'm waiting for the Zoning Enforcement Division. I've submitted it 2 weeks ago, but perhaps not to Mr. Patrick Leroux. I've submitted this paper in Mr. Robert Seal's presence under video surveillance, and for them to sign off to say that this is exactly the conditions in my front yard, and that this is where the situation stands, and I have been cleared of the violation that I was taken to Stamford Superior Court for. So actually it was delivered 2 weeks, but I'm making the copies now. Right. Okay.
I'm sorry, Ms. Carmer, you submitted this as part of your application, you're saying?
No,
No.
I submitted it for you to sign, and I'm still waiting on it.
As part of
I
the
had sent
zoning
you an email as well.
Right, so the zoning violation that we've written you a letter saying that
Oh, the
one
one
in
line in English, which specified nothing and conveyed nothing. You know, a diagram speaks. The diagram is like a photograph. It leads 1,000 words. The one line that you could spare the time for after dragging me to court for 1 year. So now that I've picked up the papers, let's, just get it signed, and everyone will be on the same page.
That's not what we're here tonight for.
Get what
Yes,
signed?
but you did bring it up,
I'm trying to get what sign. I'm trying to understand, I'm sorry, just the
Please
only
check your
question-
emails, and you shall know why that thing was delivered to
So
you.
this was delivered as part of a zoning violation, not as part of the application?
Right, but the two are really connected, because things don't move forward on the application if you're in zoning violation. And why close a zoning violation when you can keep it open?
The zoning violation was closed, which is why I set this aside. You
Well,
gave it
if
to
you-
me, and I understood that it was for the zoning violation. But due to the fact that the violation was closed, I didn't find it necessary to put it in this file. It is ready to go into the zoning file, just as a record.
We all are in agreement here. There is no trouble whatsoever. Okay. Number 5. Oh, let's see.
What
Okay,
happened to
number 4, actually. Number 4, 2 and 3 is on there. They're all the surveys on the same thing, on the same survey, the proposed and the development plans. Right. So the
Is this a site development plan?
No, that's existing conditions.
So where are,
This is the site development plan.
Okay, got it.
Okay. So, number 4, the applicant has included the completed zoning statistics, FAR plans from the preliminary application. No hardline floor plans drawn by an architect have been submitted, and this is the observation made at number 4. Well, in response to this, I draw your attention to section 6-12, Section C. Whenever a structure has been approved that utilizes 90% of the allowable full floor area ratio is constructed, detailed dimensional floor plans signed and sealed by a Connecticut registered architect attesting that the plans depict the buildings constructed shall be submitted prior to the zoning compliance issuance officer. The zoning compliance issuance for the certificate of occupancy. So as you can see, neither am I up to my 90% maximum FAR and at this time, and neither is this the time for the certificate of occupancy.
You must read the paragraph before that, 14, section 612B.
Yeah. Well, I have it
Submission for
here.
a zoning permit, which is a part of the process that follows the activity here. You would go immediately to a zoning permit. And we checked with the zoning enforcement officer. You can see in the packet that he has already said that you are
Let's all
not.
have a copy, because I have it here.
And the question of whether you're within the 40 or the 90% or not is not determinable.
It is actually quite determinable because mathematics is an exact science. So my square footage is 6,000 something. The area covered and to be covered are precisely determined by the calculations provided, and I am nowhere near the 90% mark. Mathematics is exact. There's no fooling around with it.
Okay. If
And your point
mathematics is
about-
exact, excuse me, ma'am.
Yes, yes, sir.
If mathematics is exact, and on your floor plan that you have submitted
Yes.
for the basement, you have a dimension on it of 23 feet by 19 something.
Yes.
Your calculations for the FAR, you use 18.5 times something. What happened to the difference between the 23 on your drawn plan and the 18.5 you've used in your calculation?
There's the town allows for a plumbed laundry
No,
and,
no, purely mathematics, ma'am.
okay, let me look into this right now because I have this before me. All right. So what page is it, sir? Because it's all here, so,
It's not on a, well, okay,
well, all
I
the
used
plans
your,
are
I
here.
used your large drawings
My
to,
large drawing is on the staff report. What page is it?
well,
Basement?
Since the staff report is not to
I'm
scale.
intimately,
Oh,
I'm
excuse-
intimately, in,
Do you recognize this drawing? Is that yours?
yes,
Does it show 23 feet?
let me check. I have this drawing here.
Does it show 23 feet?
Yes.
Okay. In your calculation sheet, if you go to that, you go to 18.5 feet. So that's already a problem in terms of your calculation of area. Number two, the ZEO has determined and has said to you that your methods of subtracting the 100 square feet for the laundry and the 100 square feet for the mechanical equipment room are
Yes.
incorrect.
How could that be?
How could it be?
Because
Depends
I-
what you subtract them. If
No.
you subtract them from the area first and then take 50% of that number, it's different than taking 50% of a number which is incorrect to start with, and then subtracting it from that number.
Yeah, it says on his comments on page 198. of the
Yes, yes.
staff report.
This is getting wrapped around. Let me just look at where the 18 is first.
All right?
On my
your sheets,
calculations.
It's called the schematic illustration of
Yes.
floor worksheet.
Okay, on page 230,
I'm looking at your worksheets, ma'am, the large ones, and it has 18.5.
yes, it has 18.5 and 18.5.
Yeah, well, the 18.5 in one direction may be correct. We don't have a verification other than,
Well, actually, SE Minor has measured every bit of that
why
basement.
don't we have it?
You have it, sir.
don't.
You do. You
I'm
do.
sorry, we don't. We've been-
Okay, all right,
we've been
okay, all right.
discussing this with you a
No, no,
long
no,
time.
no.
We have SE
On page
Miners-
2.
We have SE Miners attic measurements,
That's
no
it.
other floors.
Okay,
And
okay.
would it be very helpful if we had all of their floors?
Okay, 221, page 221 has the grade plane computation.
I'm not talking about
Page
grade.
222
No,
has,
that is compliant.
Yes.
Page 222 has the, where the grade plane was calculated, that's
Right.
compliant, no doubt about it. Then we go to page 223, which are freehand drawing, well, they're not really freehand drawings, but they're drawings which are not to any architectural scale that I can figure out.
maybe
And you are
perhaps,
required to do that.
they're
And in
correct
your
to
case,
scale.
in your case, I believe that you are in excess of the 90% just because of the mathematical error in the calculation of the basement and your methodology for when you subtracted the 200 feet makes a major difference in a project where you are,
Subtraction is subtraction, sir. What do you mean that?
it's when you subtract it. In other words,
You subtract it from a sum.
no.
No, that's what he's got here on page 198.
Yes, that,
The
please.
deduction for the basement should be taken before the 50% division.
Yes.
what is the 50% division? We are
Well, you-
taking the
Well,
house as a whole.
No, I'm sorry, you've taken you know what it is because you've taken the 50% division already. You took it at the wrong time.
There is no 50% division. The basement is considered as a total for the house. That is exactly what the calculations show.
If you go back,
I have taken, there is no division, and I did not allow for 2 laundries or two furnaces. The basement is considered as a whole together.
Sorry, you did.
The basement is considered a whole
In your
together.
worksheet, you show us, and you
Yes.
tell us that it's 18.5 by 18.5
Yes.
times 2 for the duplex,
Yes.
And then when you go to your the floor plan allocation,
Yes.
where you summarize all the sheets, you have in there 142 square feet.
Okay.
So where did that come from? The worksheet that you gave us, this one, even with the error on it, is 684.5 square feet. And then you have in your chart where you come up with your numbers, 142.25 square feet. Where did that come from if you don't understand the 50% deduction?
There is no 50% deduction. The basement is considered as a whole, 18 by 18, multiplied by 2. So that's considered double for the two houses, and one laundry removed and one furnace removed for 100 square feet. Those are the calculations. However, I will double check
Thank you.
and I will get back to you.
You have fooled both myself and the CEO then, because we think.
Pardon,
That's
go
fine,
ahead,
you'll check
please,
it,
sir.
that's good.
But the 50% reduction is because you're between 3 and 5 feet, because of the grade plane.
No, that has nothing to do with it. What do you mean? The reduction of what?
Okay, can I just really quickly, okay, so you've got your calculations, for the
Yes.
basement calculations on page 231. You show the basement total at 684.5 square feet.
Right?
And then you did half the basement. That's the 50% we're talking about.
Okay.
The way that the calculations are done is you take the 684.5, subtract the
Yes.
100 square feet for the plumbing and laundry,
Okay.
subtract the 100 square feet for the furnace and boiler.
Yes.
That leaves you with 400 or whatever square feet.
Right.
And then you take the
you're of the
50%.
opinion that I shouldn't take the 50% off?
And then you take the 50% after that. So ultimately, you're only getting 50 square feet as how you might want to look at it for each of those. However, but that's the
Okay,
the
we will
method
go over
of
this
taking the
math
reduction.
and why it wasn't brought up before, because the same calculations were submitted with the primary, with the preliminary, but we were moved to.
May I ask you a
Okay.
question?
Yes,
May I ask you a question?
yes.
When we approved the preliminary site plan that you
Yes.
submitted,
Yes.
Mr. LaRoe wrote a letter to you, I think outlining what we were looking for when you submitted the final set of site plan drawings to us.
Mm-hmm.
I think he was quite specific in saying to you that they would have to be done by an architect.
Right. As soon as I hit that 90 mark, the architect is coming right in, sir. Wouldn't you say? Shall we consider that as an odd 90 math? Shall we consider that? Or would you like it to be less than 90 and still have an architect? Could I have a straight answer?
Because the straight answer is that until you get, you're so close that until you
The
get.
close is, the law is pretty specific, 90. What would you say, if I'm under the 90 mark, shall I still get an architect? Would you
If you're
please
under
answer
90,
that
yes, but
question?
you'll have to prove to us you're under 90.
Okay, very good. Then I shall. I'll double-check the calculations.
No,
I
no.
will get back to you. And if I find myself under 90, I will bring,
But let me go one step further, ma'am.
yes.
We have spent time with 14.2, 612.B, which is the zoning permit, the 90%. If you go further in the requirements for site plan under 614, if you go to number 4.
Do you have this, sir? I don't
I do have it. It's 614A, number 4. I have it to you. I will give it to you. I'll give you my copy of it. I'll read it to you into the record, then I'll give you this. It says, 8 sets of architectural plans drawn at a 1/8" scale, signed and sealed by an architect registered in the state of Connecticut, of all floors, all exterior elevations showing existing and proposed grade conditions. Elevations are to detail of architectural elements by labeling materials, colors, dimensions. Each architectural elevation shall show building height as well as building height for zoning purposes.
Right.
All HVAC facilities shall be shown. That is what you're required to submit
Yes.
to us.
Are you saying that this is not subject
Nothing
to
to
a
do-
limitation by Section 6-12?
Correct.
No. I'm sorry, subject to a
Right,
limitation,
right,
no.
because 6-12 is
They are
referring to
additive.
zoning permissions, and the stage that we're at right now is under 614, which is referring to the procedure applications for the site plan review.
So you have
I
to
will give
go,
this to you so that it's in the meeting that you're receiving this from me.
Yes.
Thank you.
612 happens after you get site plan approval. Then when you go file for a building permit, if you are less than the 90%, you don't need to submit that to the zoning.
But I have them already. I've got them drawn. Why would I not submit them?
Because they have not been drawn by an architect. That's
No,
certified.
I'm saying if you need them, regardless of the fact where I'm under the 90, and I
That's
get
the only
them
way to
drawn
prove
up
it.
already, so I can give them to you and them as well. What difference would it make to me?
That would be great.
Okay. Lovely. Carrying on. Number 6. Okay, the Town of Greenwich standard construction notes shall be included on the site plan. If the Town of Greenwich would be so kind as to give me the standard construction notes, I'll be happy to paste them onto the plan. And I will get Mr. LaRoe. I will get it from him, I think. The number 7, any work done within the town's right-of-way requires permission or permit from the town's highway division.
Just quickly, you did skip over number 5 in the issues and
Oh, dear.
recommendations.
Okay. Thanks for the reminder. I'll go over number 5 right now. Okay, for number 5, please refer to page 233, which shows poor photocopying that exists there now is, however, not my doing. Plans submitted by me were clear and dark, but anyway, we can still decipher them. The height of the first floor and the second floor will be exactly the same as the existing first floor and
Yes.
second floor of the main house. The dimensions are marked because the two buildings will be connected. Their bathrooms, the bathrooms will open into the main house through the bedrooms. So the buildings, the floors will be at exactly the same level. The attic space, it shows really quite clearly that I'm not planning to make it any higher than 6 feet, which is well below the 7 mark, and therefore does not contribute to FAR calculations.
All right, may I stop you again?
Yes, please do so.
If you look at page 228 of the agenda,
Yes.
you have submitted a drawing from SE Minor saying that there is a floor area worksheet for the FAR in the attic, and he's contributing 353.
Oh, that's the existing, and then.
Oh, yes, not the addition has no attic, I don't think so.
Right, right. And so the staff report is referring to the attic space in the addition. So, and there is no consideration for the attic space in the addition because it is well under 7 foot. Okay, so at least we are in agreement about that.
But wouldn't she still have to do the section?
Well,
She does, I mean, she has.
she has some
her
dimensions
sketch
on.
drawn.
Once she does her, once the elevation drawings get done by an architect, that dimension can be put on the elevation drawings. I don't think it necessitates another section for
As long as
a
the-
project.
okay.
As long as the architect tells us the height, then we'll know.
Okay, but it's there already, 6 feet. Anyway.
To be clear, then, we are getting the elevation plan from an architect.
Well, see, I'm going to look into it.
Okay.
I'm going to read the plans firmly once more time. I've taken the gentleman's recommendation, and I may have them for next time.
Great,
Okay.
Yes?
that would be good.
Okay. Number 6.
That's the
Number
standard.
7, the proposed, okay, we're now at number 7. Any work within the town's right-of-way requires permission or permit from the town's highway division.
If you're not doing any work, then
It's
a moot.
just a standard comment.
Yes, I will address it right now. Pardon? It's a standard, okay, but I still want to make it clear, because I bought you the survey, I just want to make it very clear and on the record that no work is being done in the town's right-of-way. The addition is to the back of the house, and therefore no permit is required from the town's highway division. As for the walk that exists at this time within the town's right-of-way, shown quite clearly on the plan that I have given you, The detailed survey of my front yard dated March 23rd, 2015. I should make it very clear that the work is not a part of the court order. I was ordered by court to remove pavers in my front yard and certainly did that by the mandated date up to the property line and a little beyond. But the zoning enforcement has not given me a written clearance report until April 13, 2015, exactly 6 months and 10 days after I cease and desisted.
Just a minor point here. You referred to March 23rd. You gave us a map tonight which was revised as recently as May 14, 2015. Is that the map you're referring to?
That is the map I'm referring to.
So what's the 6 months?
The original.
I don't know.
What
Pardon?
was
I'm
the
trying to-
6 months? I'm confused.
Oh, what is the 6 months? I lifted all the pavers before the court-mandated date of July 3rd, and I got a clearance from the Enforcement Division, the written formal letter, which I'd been asking for 6 months. I finally got it.
Did you submit it to staff?
The area, right.
Go ahead, Kim.
So the area indicated on the May 14, 2015 survey provided by SE Minor, the area indicated there is stone dust. That was the area that had the pavers, and those have been removed.
Yes.
And that's why the letter has been issued stating that the
Yes.
violation is no longer in place.
Right.
Right.
And all you have to do now is to sign it so that we can say that this is the exact description.
Sign
That-
what?
Sign this plan.
Because usually what we do and has been done is a letter is issued on the
Yes.
town letterhead, which is the letter that I think you were just referring to, that I signed, and as did Jody Kuchar, the zoning enforcement officer for the town, stating that the violation of the pavers, since they were removed from the front, is no longer.
Yes, but since we are all in agreement that the pavers have been removed, it shouldn't be a hardship to sign it, because things get confused and later on violations are restarted, and that has happened to me before. And a drawing speaks 1,000 words. If you think the stone dust is accurate and the pavers have been lifted, it shouldn't be a hardship for you to sign. It is for my security that I would like it.
Right, now
And I will really ask you to do that.
Now, the area-
Because the letter you wrote to me is very non-specific.
Well, it refers
La La
to a
Land.
plan. It refers to a plan that you had drawn that was received
Okay.
and accepted by the town.
Just sign it. You know, we are all in agreement. I lifted them.
Right.
It's not that
Well,
hard.
if I may, the
Yes.
plan that we had approved and signed, whatever, showed that area in the front is green, if I recall. The area shown as, and I'm not in disagreement that the pavers have been removed, and that was
Okay.
that was the violation.
Then, what is your concern?
My concern is that we've closed the violation at this point.
Yes.
So
So
I'm not sure why you want to reopen it by.
I am not reopening it. I want you to sign it so there is a drawing of exactly what has been established.
Okay, so she's
we
asking you
didn't
to sign this thing.
Yes.
She has a letter.
Ms. Albin?
Yes.
The procedure's been followed.
Yes.
This is a survey not prepared by this office, and we don't have a process by which we sign documents like that, and I think we simply have to adhere to our procedure. And
Well, then tomorrow I will add something, and then you will say, well, but you haven't given any description. If you're going to close something, you're going to say it's been close to the property line, there's this, that. There's
I would-
100 variations.
I would suggest to you that a letter,
Yes.
if you're asking for a letter, that, I think that could be drafted if you
No,
refer back
we
to
have a
the
letter.
site
We have a
plan.
letter.
letter
I
went-
can get a copy of it for you if
The
you
letter
want.
went to her, right?
Oh, you've had some.
Yes, it has a long history. I don't know why we were going over the history, but this is if you're in agreement and this is the condition, then I suggest you sign it so that we have a point of agreement, you see, that this is what we agreed to, this is what it looked like, this is what I've been cleared of.
Okay,
So the map that you've been asking us to sign this whole time, that we've signed and agreed to and closed the violation, now you'd like to amend that and provide this survey
There is
in
no
place of
signed
it.
map that exists. If it
Not
was...
a survey, you're right.
Oh,
There was
right.
the map that the
No,
plan that you had
no.
provided.
There's nothing has been signed. I have nothing for my protection. And
Other than the letter that we wrote.
right, which is very non-specific, you know.
It
and
didn't refer to the.
this plan.
Excuse me,
Yes,
it
I beg your
becomes
pardon.
specific
Yes.
if it referred to this drawing revised last revised May 14th, 2015. Did the letter refer to this?
Well, we hadn't received that
Okay.
at that time.
So
The
what they
letter
can do for
refers to
you-
a hand-drawn line, which was drawn by me at some point, and
Well,
it
this
is
line
not
up-
included. It says it's included with the email, but is not included with the email. So this is a formal drawing by a professional, and if we both agree that this exists, we
do
will have an
agree that it exists,
agreement.
but as Ms. Raymer said,
Yes.
there's no mechanism for the town
The
planner.
mechanism is a pen, sir.
It's
Well,
not
that's a
allowed.
little flippant.
Yes, I agree.
Thank you. The procedure is not to sign this, but is to, in fact, draft a letter that the town planner would sign, send to you, which would reference, in fact, this map which we received tonight
Right.
as being the satisfaction of that claim. Is that correct?
Yes.
We could do that. That would be the third letter on this particular subject,
But
closing out
she's
this.
concerned
Yeah,
about
but
it, but
all the
let's
letters-
reference this map.
Right.
So she has the comfort of knowing that this map,
Bob's just gone up to get the letter that they just sent.
Okay.
And
in
to
his,
read-
in his
and he-
absence, can we move
When he
ahead?
comes back, he just printed
But
it,
we
and
could
he's
do
on his
a-
way to get it.
There would have to be a revised letter, not a signature on the
Yes.
plan.
Yes.
Right.
Okay. Okay.
I think we got up to 8, which is,
Okay. And the last shot was taken by okay. So where was I? 6 months after I assisted and deceased, I finally got the letter. And
But I still don't understand.
July
Okay, all
to April, ma'am, 6 months.
No, let's focus on
Okay, let's go on,
what
let's
this
go.
letter,
We're on
let's
8.
not talk
I agree,
about the
I agree.
previous. You're
So,
polluting.
I
the-
have been tortured by the zoning division,
It's-
and I'm in the process of,
It's not what we're here tonight about.
okay, very good.
okay?
No, but
You're losing our attention when you go off on these tangents.
it's not a
Let's-
tangent.
It is a tangent, because number 8 has nothing
When
to
you
do
cite, when
with
you
the letter.
refuse applications and cite open violations as a reason for refusing them, I think it is pretty
It's been
pertinent.
closed.
For the record, no application that you've tried to submit to this office has been refused.
Please, my last one was, that's why I'm making an entirely new
Oh,
one.
what your language is, we need to just clarify this for the record. There was a preliminary site plan, which was moved to final.
Yes, and then the final was turned
Okay,
down.
but what the language
Down.
you just put forth was that the planning and zoning staff refused to receive an application, and that's very different from what you were talking.
Refused to receive an application?
Isn't that what you had just said, that we
I did not-
denied
Okay,
you
I
your
did
ability
not
to submit an application? I just wanted that clarified for the record, that that was not the case.
Okay. Okay, the last shot was taken, they have tortured me, and I've had a very rough time indeed. So the last shot was taken by Ms. DeLuca as she threatens me with the police. on a s-
Madam, you are now being personal to the head of our department, and this is not appropriate.
Okay,
Nobody's making personal remarks to you.
right.
And
This is the
please
email she's written.
maintain
I-
a professional standard and follow the track of what you were trying to tell us. You were
Okay.
on number 8.
Okay, I'm trying to tell you that, the head of your department is threatening the townspeople with
What
Again.
police. Here is an email.
Ms.
Again,
Comer,
this is not the forum
I forwarded your
for that.
email to the chief of police due to a threat that you placed in an email to me, for the record.
Okay.
Yes. Yes, let's all be threatened by the police, why not? Over a supposed lighting violation?
No, over your threat to me.
Right.
Can
Okay.
that stand apart from this hearing this evening?
No, actually, all violations are concerned with this application and have been detrimental to my applications, and I have been turned down because of open violations.
I
That's not correct.
think you're
Oh,
here
really? I would
tonight.
like to bring that letter which the zoning department wrote and said, take care of your violations.
You are here this evening
Okay?
under a
I've made my
new
point.
a new application.
It's not a new application, it's
It
a
is.
continuation from my preliminary.
Preliminary, but it is a new, you filed one final site plan before, after the, You got the preliminary move to final. You filed a site plan, which was denied by this commission.
Yes, I
So
remember.
this is now the second time that you filed a final site plan for
Right.
this site.
Yes.
It is, however, for us, a new application. If you
Really, I
can
don't know
understand.
why. I can't understand why, because it's the same building, the same plans, the same person. Okay,
It's just the way
All
our
right.
process works, ma'am.
all right.
Okay.
Okay.
Just for the record, you've submitted an email
That
in
stops-
pieces that starts, that was dated April 13th.
Yes, but
I
I've
have the
underlined
full
the
email.
pertinent.
I have the full email here that I will put into the
Oh,
record.
sure, you could forward it to your colleagues at any time that
I
you
will.
like.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
And
Right,
please
you are.
don't interrupt, okay?
I certainly will, but just, I
Madam,
can put the
you
whole.
are not even speaking at the moment.
All right.
This needs to stop. It's inappropriate, and it needs to stop. If you wish to talk to us, you need to be respectful and properly behave. We are behaving
We are
properly toward you.
respectful.
You are not being respectful.
This is the line, I am quoting the line, I was shouted at by Mr. Jody Couture. I have to bring this matter to your attention.
Madam, that has nothing to do.
Go back to your application. ma'am.
Okay. My sister and I are highly educated and know how to respect people.
Good.
And I do apologize, I don't mean to speak out of turn, but.
Ma'am, you haven't
Just,
come forward
Okay.
to be
Let Mrs.
Right.
introduced or anything.
Let's
Please
please-
don't talk to the commission unless
Yeah,
it's
okay.
your turn.
Certainly,
okay, ma'am, let's go ahead with the items, and just for
Where
the
were we?
record-
Sorry.
just
We
for the-
got hung up on-
Excuse me just a second, just for the record, this email that we have received is incomplete, and Mrs. DeLuca will be putting the complete email in the file.
Sure,
Okey-dokey.
sure.
Now, let's go on back to your application.
All
Number
right,
8.
what number is it?
We got
We're at
the
eight.
8 and sort of got,
Okay,
Off the
so
parking.
the town's right-of-way.
no, number 8 talks about parking.
Okay,
It's kind of a statement of fact, I think. I don't know that there's any disagreement here.
okay, and as for the walk that exists within the town's right-of-way, I think it is time that the dialogue was, I think it's time to wind down that dialogue. That walk has always existed since I bought the house. And I have a photograph which I would share with you, as when I bought the house, the walk was there. And I will give you copies now of that photograph. Okay. I also have Bing satellite images, which I have previously submitted, that show that the walk existed and always has existed. So either the highway department needs to charge me, zoning is out of jurisdiction there, I believe, of putting a walk in town's right-of-way, which never existed before, or we have to stop talking about it, because there is no room at this meeting for innuendo and hearsay, and not at this meeting and not at this stage. So the walk has been there, is grandfathered. It is not on my property. It's in town's right-of-way, and it is on the other side of the property line.
But
Sorry,
I think you're
talking about the
fixating on
parking.
this one. All it says
Okay.
is if you do any work in the town's right-of-way, has to be approved by town. That's all that number 7 says.
You asked me
Supposed to-
earlier about it, and I wanted to make
And
this
then we
point.
had moved on, we had said
I
that
thought
that's
we moved on
just standard,
to number 8.
standard notation,
Okay.
and then we had moved
Then
on.
the gentleman was asking me about it earlier, so I was prepared.
And
All right.
number 8 is not about any sort of violation, it's just saying that no off-site parking rather,
No, it says the
Contains no
commission
offset.
should determine if the proposed action is going to increase required parking demand, and if so, the variance of parking should be required.
right, and
So-
the proposed action is your proposal. So that's all it's saying, is that the proposal to do the addition, the question that is being put forth by Mr. LaRoe is whether that would require additional parking.
So my
Is-
response to that is, as regards parking, As regards parking, the town of Greenwich allowed the houses to be split in such a way that the 17 and 19 division have no on-site parking. And since I am adding only bathrooms to the existing structure, the question for parking or its increased demand does not arise. Okay, and you can go over the narration of the project or the drawn plans and see it's just bathrooms. That's all. Number 9. The Commission should make a determination regarding the adequacy of the proposed landscaping plan and its compliance with Section 180 of the BZR. The Section 180 of the BZR deals with screening, and I've been asked in a formal letter by zoning to comply to it. I fear it not, because I have 2 evergreen trees in my front yard, as evidenced by the survey of my front yard that I've just handed to you. I have a tree for every 20 feet of my frontage, or 25 feet of my frontage. And let me be clear about Section 6180. It is mandated by Section 6177, and let me give you a copy of Section 6177. Voila. I have one.
Did you submit a proposed landscaping plan?
No. No.
Okay.
I'm in.
The hedges that are shown on this one survey that we
Yes,
have,
yes.
are those existing?
They are existing. Those are ones that I have planted when I moved into the house. Those are evergreen trees, and not only will they provide screening, adequate screening, they provide any light. There have been some concerns about the light that might go onto the boundaries, that those trees will grow to be much above 8 feet, and they will deflect the light.
Can you tell us how high they are now? How high?
Pardon?
How high
They
is
might
that
be
hedge?
5 or 6 feet at this point. They're a tad bit taller than me, but they grow about 2 feet a year. And so by the time this project is finished.
There was a statement in one of the things that we got on when we were discussing drainage, of 10 evergreen trees were being planted.
Yes.
Or
Those are the trees, because
are they arborvitae?
they are arborvitae, and they are the ones that are going to be 8 feet, and they're exactly on the side of where the addition is going to be. And
Are there 10 of them?
pardon, 10 on each side, and possibly more, because I keep planting. And what was I going to say? Yes, and the Section 180, like I said, there is those 2 trees, those 2 evergreens are up front of the house at this time. And I have not submitted a formal landscaping plan, but the one that you're looking at, the one that I'm asking Ms. Katie DeLuca to sign, shows the plantings that I have done, and those are going to be pretty permanent, except for the area which is covered by stone dust. These plants are pretty much in, and they will stay. You can see those rock beds. Those are rock gardens, and the 2 evergreen trees, and that is going to be my landscaping up front. There's more plantings to each side, rose bushes and such. Okay.
You're not parking in the stone dust?
Pardon?
You will not park in a car in the stone dust?
Is parking a concern for you, sir?
Didn't ask that. I asked,
Yes.
Are you planning on parking a car in the stone dust?
Would you like me to park a car there, or would you not like me to park a car there?
Just ask the question, what was your intention?
Of what?
if you're planning on using the front yard for parking or not.
Yes, sometimes I may park there because when the snow comes through, and where do you want the cars to go if there's a snow emergency? If there is a law against it, please do write me a formal letter, the section that deals with it, because if it does, then I will stop. And if it doesn't, then you have no right to ask me. But I like to get my car off the road sometimes where the snow comes through. And is that advisable? Is it not advisable? What do you say? I have acquired this house that the town allowed it to be split from 21, the estate of Veronica Stalinsky. It was split in such a way that it has no driveways, and it is so wide on the sides, there is no opportunity for creating a driveway. This is the situation I bought, and this is the situation that exists. What would you like me to do? I would be happy to. There are no curb cuts. I mean, it's not going to comply to any of the highway division's plan for driveways. I have no option. What happens when there's 6 foot of snow, and what do you want me to do?
I'm curious, Division Street is actually has two-way traffic on it, right? It has to have it, because you come in and you...
Yes.
But I thought they were just parking on one side of the street?
No, there's parking everywhere.
Both sides?
Yes.
It's not prohibited?
No.
Okay.
And if you're opposed to parking, please write me a formal letter. I know there's been a mention of it in the staff report, and it would be really nice if you could get that cleared up as well. You look at your side. If I'm against the law, I will stop. If there's no law against it, you shall stop asking me about it.
Is there a curb cut that you use to get onto the front, or is this just you kind of hop the sidewalk, so to speak?
I think that if you look at the survey, the survey says, the existing survey says remains of a curb.
It's a low
So that to me is probably a curb which has probably been just either broken up or beaten down or something. There's not much of a curb left. Is that correct?
I don't think there was much of curb there to begin with.
All right, well, it
Yeah.
just,
Yeah.
the survey says remains, so I'm sure that it's there. And if you drive down Division Street, I mean, I can understand what she's talking about.
And that's, I think, why Mr. LaRoe was raising the question about the development plan and the existing survey plan, because in there it talks about the location, dimensions, and surface treatment of all existing and proposed parking and loading spaces. I'm reading from 6-14A3B.
Okay.
And so
Go ahead, please.
And that's why I was asking the question if there was a curb cut, because when you do enter onto a property from the road, there's a curb cut permit that's required from the highway department so that you could get onto the property, and so that it's a safe environment, and they review that.
For the house, a safe environment for the house?
Well, for the cars backing in and out of a driveway.
Oh.
So that's why the highway department issues curb cut permits.
Oh, okay. So I would say that if you're asking me about parking and drives and everything, the point is moot because I have neither driveways nor anything. So what does parking have to do with it, right? And if most people on that street are putting two wheels on, I mean, I'm not going to get into this discussion. It's not relevant. If there's any law, let's get on with it. Write to me. Let's get it on paper, and we will move from there. That's it. That is all that we're going to do at this point.
Thank you.
Okay. Now, where were we? Number 10. Okay, yes, and so Section 180, I don't think it holds because I gave you a copy of Section, let me just read it. I have this written down, Section 6177, and there are listings on it that are subject to Section 180, and just going down that list of Section 6177, you can see that my property does not qualify for any of those. And if I'm mistaken, please correct me. but I don't think I am. All right. Number 10, the BZR.
In the staff report, it mentions compliance with 6180.
Mm-hmm.
And what Mrs. Kumar, is that how you?
Kumar.
Is saying is that she does not need to comply with 6180 because she is not in the 6177
Yes.
uses.
180 is subservient to 177. That's how I understand it.
Well, on 180, it talks about
Okay.
properties in the
If you are not in agreement, again, please put it into writing very clearly on a piece of paper. I am available at 17 and 19 division. If I am to be corrected, please put it on paper, and we will discuss it at the next meeting. How's that?
Ms. Kummer, if you could just let me finish my comment.
Please do.
Thank you. Section 6-180 refers to the required screening and planting, and all yards within an R6 zone require type A planting. And the type A planting is the desired effect of this planting is partial visual screening. Planting material should consist of shade trees or a combination of shade trees and flowering trees. And you've just spoken to the arborvitaes that you were proposing to.
No, they're not proposed. They're there.
They're there.
They've always been there in front of the house.
Okay.
I've just pruned them.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, where we are, number 10. Just a few points from the end. Okay, the commission may wish to require a bicycle rack on section 6-155. This is an absolute waste of time because if we look at a copy of section 155, okay, it deals with parking and garages for multifamily residential purposes. Since I have neither a garage nor parking, why bring it up? Pray tell. Okay.
Because you have a multifamily property, a two-family home is considered multifamily, and that's
And-
why you're here before us, under a special permit.
Yes, but this is dealing with, like I said, parking and garages and the bicycle rack.
But that section. of
I
the-
have the section here. I mean, it's not that I'm being argumentative.
It's all yours. And it doesn't matter because it doesn't apply.
No, and it's fine. It's
It may
our
not
discretion,
apply
and
because
that's
it just
fine.
says the commission may wish to consider it.
Yes.
I don't know why, because it doesn't apply. You know, it just adds an extra point to it, and if one were looking to make points. Okay. Number 11. The designated rubbish areas are under the porch, in the alleyway, under the porch. I have lots of height to my porch, and there is so it's going to be concealed, and there is a wide door to facilitate removal. Now, do you need any plans, or shall I just give you a photograph and say this is the
You're going to
designated
submit a site plan.
site plan?
The landscaping plan?
You're going to submit the architect's plans?
If I may, yes.
When an architect makes a plan, he'll indicate it.
Just
Rubbish
show it.
areas as well. Okay, bingo. Let's add that on. Okay. Proposed exterior lighting has been showed on the proposed elevation plan. Given the outstanding zoning compliance notices regarding the existing lighting on the site, it is recommended that a photomeric plan be required to ensure compliance with sections 6-152 and 6-153 of the BZR. Okay, number 24, proposed exterior lighting. There is one light fixture beside each back door. The distance of the light to the property line is 14 feet and 19 feet, respectively. It is highly unlikely that a light from a 30-watt bulb should make it and create a problem at the property line. But yet there is green screening, arborvitaes, at there. And like I said, if it is a concern, then the bulb of lower voltage can always be substituted. at the time of the certificate of occupancy. And
But as I remember, okay, so where are you with, I'm confused by what you said, because it says the outstanding zoning compliance notices regarding the existing lighting. So you're saying you've changed the lighting?
I have. Actually, the lighting fixture was not only changed, I have a worksheet from my electrician that says that the light fixture was totally turned. Then Mr. William Schwartz of the Enforcement Division came by onto the property and saw that it had been turned.
Okay.
And then the matter was closed, but I did not again receive a formal letter. Then, after 3 months of the inspection, the whole thing was restarted again, and there was nothing I could do to prove that this thing is closed because I never got a formal letter, right?
It's not the practice of the zoning enforcement office to issue letters of closure. You can request a copy of the computer screen, or occasionally, yes, you can receive a short letter that says the violation has been closed.
Yes, that short letter, I would have really, really appreciated it. It never arrived. I wrote numerous emails, and it's been, Okay, and then I have actually a little paragraph I would write to read regarding this lighting violation. Okay, yes. The supposed lighting violation. There are so many holes in that story that you're going to never make it stick. I have Mr. Luca's email stating that it was inspected before. It could not be inspected because it wasn't turned on. I have that email here.
Ma'am?
Yes.
I think that since everybody just said that you said that you no longer have the violation.
Well, we need to verify that.
Yes, this violation
Well, I
is...
don't, but we're going over history that may not be pertinent at the moment. And so I want to try and get through what the to-do list is for when you come back, rather than rehash the history of the unless you guys need that for some reason.
Well,
Do you need to hear the history of the lighting violation?
Yes.
No, we know it. So the lights that that are germane to this application are the ones that are shown on page 229, and those are the ones that are proposed. Is that correct? The ones that you drew on the back?
On the back,
Okay.
those are the proposed lights. Those are not in violation because they don't exist. The ones on the side of the house and the existing building are supposedly under violation. And
So at this stage, I think we should just stick to what you've got proposed, which is on page 229, and the zoning enforcement officer is handling the lights that are on the side.
Great.
well, somebody just asked me about the zoning violation, that why it exists, or the lighting, or whatever.
I just asked you if you had finished going through that whole comment from Mr. LaRoe, because we were on item 12, and it said, given that, what I wanted to know is, this has been addressed, and that the zoning
Oh,
compliance...
it hasn't been addressed. They've been torturing me.
Okay, ma'am.
And with no letters, and it's going on. And then first it was 1, and then it became 2, and then it wasn't inspected because it wasn't turned
Okay,
on.
so-
And it's a motion sensor light, so how could it not be? And when the inspectors were there, they would have found that out, that it's a motion sensor light.
Again, keeping to the application, which
Yes.
is what we're here to discuss, not the
Okay.
zoning violation. What Mr. LaRoe is saying in number 12 is that he is asking the commission whether they would like to see a photometric plan. Your representation is that there's a certain distance and a certain wattage of the bulb.
Yes.
And
The
so-
distance is 14 and 19 feet, like I said, and the
Right.
wattage is 30. And I said we can take the wattage down. I highly doubt that it would be a problem, but we can always turn the bulb. So I
Okay.
don't think the whole application should be teetering on the photometric plan and focusing on a 30 wattage bulb.
Okay, and then just for the record, the
Yes.
the fixtures that you proposed here, those are at elevation 12, is that right?
They're right next to the
Or is that
door.
12 feet apart, and they're up high at 17 feet? I'm just trying to figure out.
Please take your time to read it.
If you could actually help me there on page 229 of, that's your drawing
Yes,
there?
I believe that the door is 8 feet, and then, the additional side setbacks of each yard are to be added to that. Well, on one side, it's going to be 10 feet, and on the other side, it's going to be 5 feet, adding to the total of 15 feet, which is required by law. And the lights are 9 feet from the side of the building, so 9 plus 5 plus, 14 and 19, like I said. Does that make it easier?
Frankly, I'm still not clear on what the height of the fixtures
Please,
are. but
well, somebody has to help you.
If you could help me, Ms. Hummer, that's what you're here to do, is to present your application. So I'm trying to understand
I did
what
the math.
I see the 3 feet from, I'm trying to find the height up from the ground. I see you have 3 feet, and then you have, what is that number there on the right-hand side on page 229? Is that 17 feet, or is that 7 feet? What is that showing?
I don't know, it's a poor photocopy of the plans that I submitted, so.
Okay, well, we can get that point clarified.
Why don't you look at the, what, is the height a concern, or is the side? What is the issue here? I would like the light to be above the door. That's traditionally where the light is placed.
Right now, the light
that
would look to be, the door
Yes.
is 8 feet, you say, or 7
No,
feet?
no, I was talking about horizontal distance. Now I'm thinking vertical is a problem.
That's what I'm asking, is the vertical from the
Yes.
ground. And the reason I'm asking that question
Yes.
is the commission has to decide whether they want to require a photometric plan. So the question about the height of the fixture, the wattage, and the distance to the property line all come into play. So
Okay.
I'm trying to find out this last dimension so that the commission can determine whether they would like a photometric plan.
Yeah, okay, so the door
It's
is,
approximately, I can tell you, that's 3 feet above the ground till you get to the bottom of the door. The door is 7 feet, that's 10 feet, and that shows the bottom of the fixture aligning with the top of the door.
could you, since
229.
you're already there, could you tell me the page number, please?
229.
Yeah, okay.
I see the 3 feet from the ground up.
Well,
Yes, I think
this
we've
is
got a
not
little
accurate at all.
fixation going here with the
There's no way to
light.
determine the height of this.
It's plus, I know that.
What height would you like it to be at?
We know the grade plane
What
is
is
3.5.
I don't know where the fixture falls. So there's no way to tell. Is it 8 feet? Is it 7 feet? It's definitely shown as being below the top of the fan.
Well, it's below that, but at the top of the doors, that's the one I was going to for the bottom
Yeah,
of the
okay.
There's no
fixture.
dimension on it, so there's no way
So-
to know.
It's really near the top of the door, and the door seems to be,
I think it's an easy dimension to put on the elevations when you draw it, and that's the
Or
length.
when the architect does.
it is 3 plus
It
7.
is approximately 9 feet to the center of the fixture, approximately.
Okay.
I'm
But
sorry, 3 plus 7 is
we're
10
talking about a
feet.
backyard which is in the excess of 40 feet wide and more than I'm like way over my rear yard. The requirement is 25 and I've got like 35 feet of backyard. So I think the light would be pretty much contained, wouldn't you say? And it's also going to be a motion sensor light as well.
Okay. Is that anywhere, have you told us that anywhere in writing, that it's a motion sensor?
Yes, it is.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
229?
Single motion sensor light.
I'm
by
rather
each
partial to those.
30.
Finally found the detail.
Thank you. I see that, yes, thank you.
Okay.
So does the commission, do you have an opinion on whether you want a photometric plan at
No,
this point?
I don't think
Okay,
so.
Thank you.
As long as you're limited to
The LED ones, the new LED ones,
Okay.
I think.
Okay. Number 13 is nothing else. And I do have to go over the background. There's also another thing that needs to be straightened out here. They've written this existing conditions survey does not show existing curbs, edge of pavement, sidewalks, particularly the existing conditions in the front yard and the town's right-of-way where pavement, where pavement was installed without proper approvals and was the subject of zoning enforcement action taken by the town against this applicant. Page 195, I'm reading
I
exactly.
see that, but the drawing that you submitted this evening
Yes.
seems to cover this because it is, the drawing you submitted this evening is the existing condition
Yes.
survey.
Yes, and also in addition to that drawing, I would like to make it very clear that the existing walk in the town's right-of-way indeed was the subject of the zoning enforcement action taken by town against me, but they could never convince the judge to agree, and therefore I was ordered to cease and desist in the front yard only, and which is up to my property line and nothing beyond. Okay. Then I'm just going to skip over the few other points. Let's just go over the last three because the other twos are just a difference of opinion, and we'd be going over them again. The last 3 points, the applicant did not provide floor plan worksheets. Those worksheets are on page 230 and 231. The applicant has not provided a construction logistics and phasing plan. And I would like to say that the construction logistics and phasing plan is on page 219. It's pretty clear. Do you feel that I need to add to it? Do you think, I don't have driveways, so the materials are not going to be dumped to the backyard. They will have to be manually carried. I do not have walkways. I'm still waiting on town to give me some walkways. They keep saying that this hand-drawn plan is approved, but it's never been stamped approved, so I haven't put it in. And if you're going to give me these walkways, then the people would be able to carry everything in a safe manner, and I am responsible for the safety of my workers. So that is the logistics plan. The logistics plan is taken care of as much as I could do, but I need approved walkways, which have to come from you or enforcement or someone. Okay.
Any walkway can be permitted. The walkway you're referring to can be permitted through the highway department if it's built to their standards.
Oh, highway, no, there's a lot of front yard, 9 feet, which is under zoning, and then the 6 feet is under highway. So you start your part, and I'll get the rest from highway. How's that?
Go.
You're right. Only it needs to be, you wrote me an email and it says, just build it because it's got your initials on it and it's never been stamped approved, and you were urging me to build it. And I have that email as well.
Ma'am, let's just...
Okay. These are the logistics, madam. I'm not...
I just want to stay with what you're before us on, because we keep going back to things that we can't resolve for you. There are things that you brought up. I can't resolve that. We can't help you with that. And we're just trying to get this moved forward.
Yes, but I'm trying to tell you that the issues you raise, the issues of lighting violation, the pavers, the logistics, are related to enforcement who's not letting me move forward with these things. So I cannot bring something to you that they will not let go of. It is really that simple. We are it's all interconnected.
You can't move forward with the zoning enforcement until you can't get the building permit until you get and satisfy this commission on our items.
Right. Okay. And that's what I'm trying to do, and they won't give it to me. How can I tell you what a logistics plan is and make it logical at the same point when I don't have sidewalks? First of all, I don't have driveways. Then I don't have sidewalks. What am I supposed to give you as a logistics plan and be logical at the same point? I would like to be logical. Okay. There's also another mistake here. parking and number of bedrooms. Both units are noted as two-bedroom units. For the umpteenth time, there are both three-bedroom units as per my building permit. And it says something about such a place requires a garage, an outdoor space, and hang on, I have it worded nicely, so I could.
This says.
Is that a concern for you? Would you like me to go over?
No, ma'am, this says 3 bedrooms here.
On page 196.
I'm sorry, if you look at your floor plans on page 226, it's bedroom 1, bedroom 2 for.
Right, and there's one in the attic. The third one's in the attic, the master bedroom.
Isn't that interesting? We
Yes.
didn't know that.
Yes. Lovely space.
It is, but you didn't give us a plan on it, so how would we know it?
Well, it's it's on my existing building permit.
The FAR plan doesn't say anything about an attic, basement, or bedroom. It just shows the area.
Okay, so now we know it's a bedroom. It's also my permit, my existing permit. It's on there. Okay, are there any points?
Can I ask a question? Both units have a bedroom in the attic?
Yes.
Okay.
Because both units have attics, so. I mean, the house is identical, is what I mean to say, bilaterally symmetrical.
The plan, again, we're getting back to these drawings that you submitted to us and so forth. The plan that you submitted that's showing the attic only shows the area involved by an engineer. It doesn't show the stairways to get up there. It doesn't show if there's a bathroom up there or anything. It doesn't show the lines of where the walls are for this bedroom. I mean, there's no way, based on the information that you've submitted so far, that any of us could tell what's in this attic. How do you
Well,
even know?
it's
you can get up
existing space, so I don't think it's under, it's existing grandfathered.
one, too?
It doesn't matter, ma'am.
See, this is why the application's incomplete. You say you have a building permit
It's
for
not
it.
incomplete, sir.
Well, we can go around and round. We say
Okay.
it is.
Okay.
And-
What would
and-
you like? What
Well,
would you
I just
like?
told you, if the first thing I would like you to do is to comply with that, what, the thing, the 614, whatever it was, I can't remember the number now, that I just
Okay.
gave you the copy of,
Mhm.
which is an architect to prepare plans, elevations in accordance with that requirement. That's it.
That's A4,
Thank you.
614A4.
That will answer the questions of what's in the basement, that'll answer the questions, where's the chimney as it goes up through the house, that'll answer the, what's up in the attic, that will answer everything that we've been struggling with for a long time.
And then that'll.
I don't know
really
why you're struggling. I mean, these drawings are very clear.
I'm sorry, they're not clear, ma'am, there's no, if you look at the drawing for the attic, show me how that person gets to the attic. Where's the stairway?
On your drawing.
I
This is
have
the
submitted them, maybe they were not included in the report.
I don't know, I can only
I
go by
have-
what
Yes,
I have
yes.
in front of
We've
me.
been asking you for, we're just asking you for a complete set of architectural plans, and again, it's for clarity and to document it, and I think it'll make it a lot easier, because that'll also, the issues that were raised by the zoning enforcement officer about how the FAR is calculated, I think you could just clear the whole thing up, and I think, you would like to move forward, that would be
We would like you to move
a
forward.
super helpful way of doing it.
Yes,
Is if you
things-
got the architectural plans, and if you did that compliance with 614. And
Yes, but-
Yes, ma'am.
I think,
These drawings and the calculations and everything is all there. It's really all
Ma'am,
there.
the calculations, if I take you once back to, I know we covered this before, but on page 198 of the staff report, what the zoning enforcement officer said, and we went through with you, is that the calculations were incorrect. And that we need to have the correct calculations to know about whether or not you're at the 90%. The comment that Jody is making here, that Mr. Couture is making, is that once you correct it, you will be at the 90%. That's why the exact calculation, to have it done right, not, and you're hearing it from a person with 50 years of architectural experience.
Try
I don't
80.
need to say that, but
But, I mean, you're
A
hearing
retired
it from,
architect,
from a
yes.
retired architect who is struggling to put the pieces together, and he has really been trying to give you the guidance so that you can move forward. We would like you to do that.
Mr. Jody Couture frequently writes whatever comes into his head.
Ma'am, again,
Yes,
Mrs.
this
Raymond
this
said
has
to
been
you
This,
Mrs. Raymer said to you, please, no personal remarks, no judgments about the people. Let's just focus on the application.
I'm judging
We're
what they
telling-
write, ma'am.
We're telling you
And that
what-
influences me directly. Okay, let's go, it's just, that influences.
I'm sorry, the court reporter can't take the transcript if you interrupt me. We've asked you what we need to move forward. I know we said it to you before. I know I said it to you before. So there it is. Anybody else?
No, I have nothing else to say. Any other commissioner, any comments? Any
Okay.
comments? Go ahead. Comments from the public?
My name is Kathy Lavity, Kathy with a C, L-A, V for Victor, A, T for Thomas, Y. I live at 12 Division Street on the other side. I'm a
Can I ask you to move the microphone to?
I'm a life resident of this street. I'm well familiar with the house in question. I disagree with some of what I heard here. I have to tell you, there are curbs in front of this house. Somebody else will get up and show you some other pictures, because the owner of this house wants it both ways. You know, find that town property and she's going to be mellow. Not so. So I'll let my other neighbor speak, but what you're seeing and hearing tonight is not what's going on.
Ma'am, I'm sorry,
Be more
I didn't
specific.
understand what you meant at all. I'm very confused. You said there are curbs?
No, they're curbs. And this is a two-way street, and I know what you're saying about parking and everything, but
You allowed to park on both sides, I think?
yes.
Okay,
And there is a neighbor who's trying to work on that with the town to have it one-sided parking.
that's what we were aware of, and that, okay,
Yeah,
got
they're
it.
trying. The situation here is everybody's very mindful of the parking. And Division Street is small. And it
Right.
has traffic from the medical building.
Believe it or
and-
not, we've all driven down your street
Okay.
at this point.
I mean, it would be a shame if Division Street turns into what Chapel Street is. Because if you've ever driven down Chapel Street and see how those people park, it's a shame. There are nice houses on that street. Division Street's very quaint. And I think we have to be mindful of parking. And allowing two cars to be parked up to a house and hang on to the street, which they will, and these are two small cars that get parked there. So you couldn't go to a bigger car. So, I mean, I think you have to be mindful, and I think you're doing a great job of being mindful for us with this particular situation, and I hope you continue. It's a nice street, and we've all been going through a whole lot.
Now, ma'am, can I ask you one more question? I can't remember which of the neighbors spoke about the lights, the
Oh,
last.
he's coming next.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, good evening. My name is Dennis Riley, and I live at 21 Division Street. I'm an adjoining property owner. I live to the west of 19 Division Street.
That's closer to the hospital?
That's correct. And I'd first like to address, I have reviewed the file, and the architectural drawings have a lot of questions, and now she's mentioning that the attic space is going to be a bedroom, which does add to living space, and I'm not sure what that does to the mathematics, but it does increase it does increase the
Mrs. Kummer is representing that that's currently bedroom space, and that she's
Yes.
not changing that. That's currently master bedroom.
Well, not the attic. The attic was always open space and never a bedroom. But now she's considering making it a bedroom because she's added dormers to the roof. So it is added living space now.
My understanding is that she had 3 bedrooms before, and she converted, combined those two, a couple of the bedrooms on the second floor in order to turn it into just 2 bedrooms on the second floor. Therefore, when she added a bedroom to the attic level, it was only 3 floors at that, or 3 bedrooms at that time. So she didn't increase the number of bedrooms. She kept it at 3 as to what it had been historically, even though she took over some of the space.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I'd like to address the lighting issue. She does have bright spotlights that illuminate my property. They're only 5 or 6 feet from they're about approximately 6 feet from my property, and they are pointed at my property. And Mr. Couture did come out and test them, and they were well over the limit. And the trees that she's speaking about that are screening the lights are 10 to 12 feet on this corner, 10 to 12 feet high on the corner of the house, and the trees do not screen the light. There's no screening on in the front. She has lights on the front corner of the house that illuminate my property that are only 5 or 6 feet. They illuminate my front porch. They illuminate my front yard. And she's also put lights on the rear of the property that illuminate my property. And they come on at dusk and go off at dawn. They're currently on at this present moment.
So these are the 2 lights on the back of the house that,
No, the lights that I just mentioned are on the rear of the property that illuminate. Our properties are probably 50 feet deep approximately. And the lights that he did come out and test as of last night, they still come on and they illuminate my property.
okay.
It's another. And I'd like to address the street parking. I have photographs of cars that were parked less than a month ago. On the day that I received a notice that she was going to submit another application, on that very day, there were 2 cars parked on the town right-of-way.
Do you mind if you to give us the pictures to keep them? Okay.
Sure looks like. And this is my property. The green grass is my property.
It's greener now, right? We're working on making everything green today.
And that was taken about a month, probably three weeks ago, I think.
This is just the same picture? So
Yeah.
it's the same picture 3 times.
That's correct, yeah.
So when is it up?
Yeah, well, staff is going to end up with it, okay.
Can you, in the picture with the red convertible,
His property is this.
right, I'm just saying, is the red convertible parked in a similar manner, or is it just short parked on a driveway?
No, that's her front yard.
So she's parked both cars on her property?
That's correct.
The red one and the...
Someone has
From the right of way.
Right.
Okay.
And that's my concern about the future, being a 2-family house, that she's monopolizing both on-street parking. That way, someone would legally be able to park behind her, but...
The house is legally a 2-family house now,
That's correct.
so that's not changing.
Right. But if she is permitted to park on her front yard, no one can park on the street behind her. I mean, logistically. But
I understand.
legally, yes. Logistically, no.
Thank you.
Got it,
All right. That's about it.
okay.
Thanks.
Is there, there's one there.
Oh,
Is
sorry, I'm sorry.
Mr. Neighbor?
anyone else wish to speak?
No, okay.
Okay.
Yes, with the parking, if you think that the tail end of the car sticks out onto the driveway, would you rather the whole car was on the road? That is the question. But, you'd address, I have nothing to hide, photographs are there. I've admitted to it. You let me know if there's a problem in writing. As the tail end of the car sticking out, or would you rather the entirety of the car was parked on the street? I mean, what difference does it make? Right. Okay. And also the lighting issue. To this date, I have never been informed when this inspection is going to take place, and I would like to be informed. I would like to be there. I would like the last reading that was received is in direct contradiction to the wattage of the bulbs. Now, they said this light is giving off this much, and that is the one actually having a higher wattage. And the lights placed on the fences are landscape lights. They're very, very low wattage. They don't give off hardly any light. But the ones on the side, I would be happy to address this issue if somebody came and said, you know, I need to get it inspected and closed. I'm as eager as anyone to do it, but someone has to come out. I have been asking and writing emails for 6 months for someone to come out and do that. And if you're going to work on it, splendid. Let's do it together.
Ms. Cumming, you had said before that the area where the stone dust is, that you were planting that?
No, I am not planting the area of the stone dust.
Okay, I thought you said that was going to
I
be planted.
think if you look at the existing plan, you'll see that there's an area right now that's called landscaping, then there's the area called stone dust.
Right, and
Yes.
then I thought
Existing.
I thought I understood, Ms. Comer, I clearly didn't, that she was planting that area.
May I?
May I look at the plan for a moment?
Yep,
Pardon?
sorry.
No, thank you.
I think it would be probably a good idea to have this,
Okay, so you're seeing these.
excuse me,
Sorry.
show more accurately what's going on the front yard here, because if she's using it for parking, it should show that she uses it for parking.
Okay, and how would you like me to show that?
So we keep coming back to is to get it done to have the whole site plan done by an architect, because I think at the end of the day, it would be much more efficient in terms of us understanding the
Certainly.
proposal and us being able to move it forward. I don't know how else to,
And frankly, that's why Mr. LaRoe brings up the issue with the highway department, because if this is what's happening, then there needs to be highway curb cuts approved. And maybe they have been approved, and then you can provide them.
yeah.
Write me whatever you need. If I'm in violation, let me know again in writing. Everything has to be in writing. As regards the landscaping plan, the staircase has always been there. It's going to remain. And then you see these beds, which says plantings, and they're identical. And those.
Thank you.
Those beds are have rocks, and it's a rock garden, and they're there now, and they're going to remain as such. And the plantings to the side again are going to remain, and the stone dust area is not going to be planted on. And I have greenland, green area concerns are not a concern on my property because it's almost 70% green. Okay. Good evening, thank you.
Excuse me.
Yes.
We're okay on scheduling on this, Katie? We don't have to get an extension or anything? So we'll just keep it open?
But I think it's a question of making sure that the applicant can put
The
all the
applicant-
documentation together so we can have something, and you know all the open questions. I think that's.
Yes, I think we covered it.
Well, when an application is opened, by law, there's 35 days within which to hold that application open. So since it was open tonight, now there's 35 days. I am a little bit concerned if we could just go over what it is you're intending to provide, because if you don't have the architectural drawings at this stage, I'm not sure the 35 days will be sufficient. Perhaps it will be, and I'll leave that up to you. But right now, just for clarity, I think we should go through the items. Number one, we'll check and get the issue with the rain barrels clarified with the Department of Public Works and get that clarified.
Yes, I'm
with
clear
them.
on it. I think you need clarification.
Correct, and that's why I just said that we will seek clarification from the Department of Public Works. We are expecting architectural plans from you so that we can see all of the floor plans and the elevations and architectural plans that comply with Section 6-14, the sheet that Mr. Maitland handed to you.
And also,
By an architect.
the existing floor plans don't show the
Yes,
current third
architectural
floor.
plans.
Right, and it would show all of the floors, so we can see what the dimensions are and what the uses are of those floors.
Scale architectural work.
Okay. There will be no, I will not be signing any extensions?
Extensions.
Extensions, okay.
Okay.
And Ms. Comer, if you could provide that information prior to the meeting, that's our procedure, that the materials come in. So in other words, please don't submit them at the meeting, because there's no time for any review of those plans, and
Okay.
we like to get them at least 2 weeks ahead of time.
2
And I
weeks
think-
is asking a lot.
I was going to say, I think that's going to be a bit tough, but if you could come in at least a week prior to the meeting, so that it gives staff time to review it and the commission can take a look at it also, that would be most helpful.
Yeah, since they're not going to be very much different with what has been submitted, and going through the architect is a formality, I think
It's not
I
a
will try to allow 5 business days. I will try.
It's
That would be
not-
my endeavor.
It's not a formality, it's a requirement, and you do not have floor plans on
Nancy, is
all-
your mic on?
Yes, on all the floors. So it's not a formality, it's a requirement.
I submitted all floor plans if they didn't make it to the
For
staff report.
614,
Yes.
you must provide the architect plans, and we've given you a copy of the section, and it's mandatory.
Yes, I agree.
It's what every applicant has to do. Thank you.
Okay. Good evening. Thank you.
Is any other business, or is that it? We'll keep this
We don't have
open?
to vote on it, we're just keeping this open.
Yep, that's it.
And that's it.
We're done.
Can you imagine if we had a full agenda? And here I was so proud of you. Until Donald.
Okay, so I was on.
Yes, we're finished.